Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and people who don't identify as any of the above. It is the return of the Gentleman's Debate podcast. We're
Hello,
here
everyone.
in 2018. How's it fucking going? Ooh. It's nice to be back, isn't it?
Everyone? Yeah. Like, when Christmas comes along and New Year's, everyone's like, it's like a world whirlwind. I don't even know what happened. It just went so quick.
Yeah, we took quite the long break, to be honest. But a lot happened. Josh went to Russia. I went down to I went down south to visit my girlfriend's parents. Down to Salisbury.
How was that?
It was alright, actually. Yeah, it was good. Interesting. Well, because it's so quiet. It's like near the New Forest for anyone who lives near there. It's very peaceful, very nice, very picturesque.
I love that.
Deer everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere. Just deer, just randomly just roaming about. And horses. Because you're allowed to let, if you live in the New Forest, you can let horses just graze. Just let them roam about, and then you just basically go find them.
Like nature was meant to be before we decided to show up. Like, oh, there's other animals here, and there's like other species.
Yeah. Really nice pubs down there.
Oh, I bet.
Shit beer.
No.
Like, really bad
Don't
beer.
ruin it for me. Seriously?
Really bad beer, yeah. It's a bit of a shame, to be honest.
I
But
thought you said shit deer.
no, beer. Ha ha ha.
It's like
funny.
getting everything right. It's like seeing a girl, right? Beautiful, long hair, like great face, like, you know, everything you want. And then she speaks. She's like, hello, how's it going? And you're like, oh,
No, I've got it worse, right? Got it worse.
Go. Yeah.
You're a this flip this on its head. You're a young lady in a bar, and you see an attractive young man from the back. He's wearing a nice blazer, nice pair of jeans, some nice shoes. He looks like he's got nice hair from the back of his head. He has a nice bottom. He's
I think
dark,
you're describing
rugged,
me right here.
rugged and handsome.
describing-
And then he turns around,
Whoa.
and he turns around, and he fucking looks like Elijah Wood.
Oh.
Yeah, like a tall Elijah Wood.
Oh, he looks too much like a child, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't know how his immortality gene, whatever it is, like he's like Keanu Reeves, but Keanu Reeves doesn't look like a child. He just doesn't age.
Keanu Reeves is a fucking killer. I
That
love that
dude,
guy.
yeah.
I love that guy. You know, he owns a motorbike company, motorbike production company that makes their own motorbikes.
Yeah?
And they're using a combination of artificial intelligence and, a combination of augmented reality and virtual reality to build the bike. So what they do is they've got the headsets and everything like that, and they sit at desks to do the design work. So basically CAD drawing, but in three-dimensional.
Yeah.
And what they do is they start drawing it out in the AR system, so the augmented reality. Start drawing it out like that, and then what they do is they change to the VR mode, so then they can go into like a
legit
fake,
look at
it's
it.
like a garage. Basically, it's like a
crazy.
fake garage, but it's a digital
love that.
representation of a garage. And then they step in, and then they can they can look inside the tank, so like the fuel tank. So they basically.
So they're stepping next to it and then
they
just
step
can
next to it,
observe
and they
the
can
entire
step
thing.
underneath it, and you show it where he's like put his hand, like he gets his hand and he starts adjusting stuff on the inside of the fuel tank.
Wow.
It's quite cool.
Yeah, people think, AR for video games and stuff like that, but there's so many applications for it, you know, like, as you said, engineering, and they also do those helmets, don't they, with the heads-up display now, and, like, it tells you the speed, like,
It's been going for ages. I mean, when you think about it, the first sort of iterations of that was to do with fighter pilots, with a heads-up display.
Yeah.
I mean, that's augmented reality.
Yeah.
Now, the Apache helicopter gunship, they have something called the Green Eye Monster, where basically
wherever you look.
the gunner has like a screen they look down to. It's a green one. That's why they get the Green Eye Monster kind of thing. And basically that shows them the targeting reticle for the cannon underneath the Apache helicopter gunship.
Yeah, so wherever you look.
Wherever he looks, it goes, and then you can zero it, or she can zero in on the target, basically.
That's crazy. Well, Keanu Reeves is
There's,
an avid motorbike.
Also, Star Wars lightsaber battles.
Yes, I saw that as well. That was
Amazing.
Was it
What?
HTC? Was it the Vive guys? Or?
It's Lenovo. that have built it.
Well, it's interesting. Like, these hardware companies are now entering into doing
They have to.
VR,
what happened
AR.
to Nikon? They didn't
Very
change.
true.
They were like, let's just keep
BlackBerry.
it.
Same as BlackBerry.
Yeah, no, sorry, Kodak. Nikon's still about because you've got the DSLR and stuff like that. They actually managed to put up a niche.
Which, we are being filmed with a Nikon camera. # sponsor us.
They've done well. They've done well with the DSLRs and stuff like that. To be fair, and they're like all the amateur photographers going out there and stuff like that. Like,
Or our very own Joshua Simpson of York Video Productions Limited. Are you a limited company?
No.
No. Do you want to be a limited company though? In the
Yeah,
future, I
well-
would, because you get your VAT back. By the way,
My advice for now is
Yeah,
stay sole trader up until the point where you need to be a limited company.
So
'cause there's different laws at that
just
point.
to say again, which we've said in our multiple podcasts before, when Josh joined us,
About 13.
about 13ish, wasn't it? Yeah, I think that's the first one we filmed. Basically, Josh is one of our friends, and he you're degree qualified, aren't you?
I am.
In what was your degree again?
Applied computing with digital media.
Cool. Applied computing with digital media, correct? Yep. So basically, Josh knows his way around a computer, a camera, and a camcorder, and all others.
Which in today's
stuff.
day and age
Video
is something you
editing
need to know.
Yeah. So if you want to do want to have any sort of video editing work, photography work, digital, just basically any sort of digital platform, I would say, hit up Mr. Joshua Simpson on what's your Twitter and Instagram and Facebook?
Twitter and Instagram are York Video Pro.
Yeah, at York Video Pro.
At York Video Pro. Facebook's York Video Production, and my website is yorkvideopro.co.uk.
Oh, you got a website now?
I've had it for a while.
Oh, right. Fair enough. Cool. All right, so there we go. That's just to reintroduce everyone.
Shameless plug.
Yeah,
exactly.
You do need to. If you whoop that on AdWords, you definitely get some work that way.
Yeah, I need to look into that.
Yeah. Also looking
really
into
SEO.
Yeah,
Fiverr with 2 R's.
In York.
Yeah,
Freelancer
I've tried that, but there's about 1 million others offering editing work,
for really dirt cheap prices.
so it's pretty tough. Yeah,
It is difficult, but the only way you can shine through is with just better work, basically.
Well, yeah.
Think of the new market that's emerging in terms of people trying to do podcasts and
The gig economy
videos and
is
stuff
where
like
it's
that.
come.
Gig economy,
The gig economy, which is what the Chancellor of the Exchequer called it, and it's
Yeah,
been called that ever since.
It's connected to the sharing economy. So what's happening now is there's
Or
this
the
whole
peer-to-peer, some people would call it.
Yeah, because there was this thing that wasn't really prevalent before globalization, the technology came about now, which is, if this is what I liken it. If you've got a lawnmower, your neighbour's got a lawnmower. Everyone on the street has got a lawnmower, and you're there mowing one lawn once every 3 months, and then it's sitting for the rest of the time. Like, extrapolate that to the entire country. That's a lot of lawnmowers. When instead, one person on the street has a lawnmower, he shows up with it, or somewhere, and then you all do your lawns with that.
Yeah, but here's the problem, my friend. With
You're not describing
that
right
specific
there.
example,
Yeah.
I know the idea of the sharing kind of thing. But the problem is, what about if John next door doesn't give you your lawnmower back for 3 fucking months?
Well, this is the thing. This is why don't share it. Get a company to come in. The lawnmower's insured. It's the top of the line. Sit on it, Forrest Gump style. Roll up. Just be like, I can cut any lawn, and then it goes back off to do. It's cleaned. It's well maintained.
Yeah, but here's
it's
the other
cheaper.
problem. What happens when when that company gets a competitor that can do it for cheaper and can do it better?
Then they're going to be the ones that are going to win, and they're going to be even cheaper.
That other companies could go out of business. That's the thing. Unless they can find a
so
new
what if
niche
they go out of
market,
business?
or unless they
adapt, evolve, or die. Someone else is going to.
Very true. But ladies and gentlemen, we will firstly, as we've done our first and second segues of the podcast, we will basically clarify what's going on with the podcast.
Okay.
Because we're changing it up a little bit, keeping it fresh. We've done 22 episodes of basically us just having a ramble, much like we just did then. But now what we're trying to do is be a little bit more specific and fulfill the actual debate part of the Gentleman's Debate podcast. Because what we realised was we were all very similar in the way we thought, and we all have our own interests that we probably dragged into it, much like me with MMA. Obviously, we've got 3 podcasts that basically were just super MMA specific.
Very popular as well.
Yeah, I'm not saying they weren't popular, but we're gonna spin out some sub shows so that people can listen to the MMA.
We're just gonna basically put it into so you can hear what you want to hear in terms of MMA. That's gonna be specifically MMA. And then we're going to come on each other's podcasts and do a bit of, the main topic is going to be that, and then I'm going to focus on technology, cybersecurity. There's a lot of people that are interested in to know what's happening in the world in terms of the way there's data breaches, how they're handled. I'll talk mainly about the defense side. I'll also say there's how possibly people get attacked, how they get breached to help people out, possibly not to happen to themselves. No teaching involved. No one's going to learn how to hack into companies. I'm not going to do that.
That's a good idea. Because that's how you get sued pretty quick.
That is how you get
sued.
And
that's how people have an ironclad case against you, because you've recorded it in a episodic format.
Yeah, that would
where
really.
They could quote the exact episode, the exact time down to the second, where you said a specific word that you shouldn't have said. So let's not do that. Don't tell people how to hack. # don't hack me.
Yeah.
I've also realised I've started saying hashtag quite a lot. But fuck it, I like it now. Yeah. It's like lol. Fuck it.
It's not quite become basic bro yet, so you're fine for now.
Fuck it. But yeah, we're doing more basically segregating all the podcasts into different ones, different niches that people can just go to if they want to listen to that specific one. Now, Sam isn't here right now. He should be to my left. Unfortunately, I think he's hungover. Because he was out partying last night.
Well, we all went out
we
last
all
night.
Were,
we all went out last night, yes, but me and Josh were very responsible adults, and we left at midnight. Then Mickey was out till
about 1:30.
1:30.
But I'm fine.
Sam probably was out till closing time, which is about 4 o'clock here in York. So we wish you a speedy recovery, Sam. We haven't heard from him, so we hope he is okay, but we assume he's basically just
he'll be alive.
In a drunken stupor or something like
that.
Yeah. But basically, we're going to power ahead with the podcast. We're going to do, I think, a little more of a catch-up with what's going on. I want to talk about one thing that I saw on the walk here of something that's nice. So something that cheer people up.
Intriguing.
I saw, very cute, a dad and his son walking in the opposite direction whilst I was walking down to our site. And basically he was skipping along with his son and singing. Singing with his son. And it was quite loud, and it was early morning, basically. Very... very funny. He was singing super loud, and his son was singing super loud, but it was very cute. So if you could imagine all that mental image, guys.
There's still humanity in us left.
Yes. Yeah, somebody out there.
Yeah, there's still like, it's those little moments of joy. Russell Howard describes it best. It's like those little, he said he was on a bus, and he says, "This restores my faith in humanity." It's like this woman yawned, basically. And then a woman next to her, without even doing anything, she didn't know her, went and did yawn rape.
And put her finger in her mouth, yeah.
The other woman they both burst out laughing. Two complete strangers.
I like that. It's fun. It is fun.
Yeah,
two complete strangers just laughing.
Made me feel warm and fuzzy inside.
It's like whenever you go down to London, like I notice, obviously, when people who've never been to London, but basically if you've never been to the UK, imagine your capital city. So, or like a massive metropolitan city, like a New York or Singapore or Paris or wherever, basically. And the amount of people are thrown together.
Oh, yeah.
And like no one really talks to each other. Everyone is rushing about to get to work or get home or whatever.
Russian.
Russian. Oh, because you went to
I've
Russia.
got quite a good point in regards to that, but I know what you're going to say.
But it's always good when you see somebody who's like nice or has a bit of a laugh. Or just makes your day basically better.
Big cities like that.
Yeah, but it's like when I went there when we were going. Me and my girlfriend were going through London to go to Salisbury. There was a guy drumming with like pipes.
Oh, I've seen that here. Yeah.
There's a guy in York who's doing it now.
Yeah.
He's got like a pipe set up, and then he's got two pairs of flip flops. I think they were. And when he hits the different ones, it makes a different echoing sound.
Yeah.
And he basically was going through it. And he was, and he was amazing, like how he was doing it. And then he was like going, and then he stopped and was just going, yeah, and everyone was like, yeah. And these are complete strangers, mostly people who are in business attire. Yeah. So like flipping shirts and ties, but everyone was they're basically losing their shit when they saw him. And he just had that crowd captivated. And then he stopped, and then everybody sort of like took a level down and then just went and disappeared. It's pretty strange.
Have you seen that video where it's like a fake news report, but it's like a Yorkshireman's been detained in London for being really saying hi to everyone.
Yeah.
And he's there like, I just said hi to people. Like, unfortunately, what's the word? Saying hi to people isn't illegal until next year. Remember that? No, it's funny. Like you get that massive like kind of divide between. It's all relative to the density of people I found. So I've tried to break this down, and I've looked into it. So for example, the more people that are crammed into one area, the less you've got time for them, the more busy you are. It's like time constraints and everything like that. But I was looking at it, for example, like the nicest people I can think of straight away when I think of people is I'm like, which country do you think of?
Which country do I think of?
Yeah.
Nicest people.
Kind of like the most...
the nicest. So like the people who are the most honest, the most like
just the most polite, just in general. It's like most.
Let me think.
I've kind of tricked myself here. I hope it says the one I'm thinking of.
I wouldn't say it's a Western country. Like
okay.
And in the West.
It wasn't like a trick question, by the way.
No, I'm just trying to think who do I genuinely, who have I come across who's genuinely super nice? Filipinos. Filipinos are really nice.
He's completely ruined my argument.
Filipinos. So people who don't know, Filipinos are people from the Philippines. But they're super nice people. They're really friendly.
I was thinking more along the lines of Canada. Canadians are quite nice.
I don't know.
Australians.
Okay, Australians I can kind of see, but you haven't met Filipinos.
My entire argument is that the average population per square kilometre in Canada is 3.6.
Yeah.
The average population per square kilometre in the UK is 243 people per square kilometre.
Oh shit.
So my entire and Australia exactly the same as Canada, 3.6.
Well, it's weird when you think about you look at basically what is a continent, which is Australia. It has the same population on that entire landmass as Los Angeles.
20 million people, yeah.
The city of Los Angeles. Yep. It's insane. But it's a gigantic country.
Yeah, although the it could be a bit misconstrued because like in Australia they're all bunched up in Sydney, Melbourne, like they're
Perth.
not quite Perth.
Where's the other? There's another. The actual capital city isn't either
Darwin.
Of those. It's not Darwin.
It's not Darwin.
No, it's like not Wichita. It's something. Oh, I fucking forgot.
It's a weird one in Australia.
It's a weird name. It's a weird sounding one, but they basically had to move their capital there. But there's a lot of stuff been going on in Australia. Yeah, like religious stuff has been, and like there's more racial equality. So basically, a lot of people don't know is that most of the people there in Australia are white, but there was an indigenous population called the Aborigines, sorry. And these people have existed in Australia for millennia, basically. Way before white people ever touched that soil. And then basically what happened was over the hundreds of years of Australia existing, the white population suppressed the Aboriginals, and basically it was a very similar setup to apartheid in South Africa and Rhodesia before it became Zimbabwe, where basically the whites dominated and the local Aboriginals didn't have any sort of say in government or religion or anything. So now they've kind of scaled it back and they've become much more accepting. For example, to go back, Aborigines weren't allowed to go to school.
Yeah, it was really
It's
bad.
only whites who were allowed to go to school.
It was really bad. This is like a point into like I went to Australia and I met this guy who was a painter, right? And he'd been painting for years over in Australia. And he said, I remember once I got called to a job and they said you have to paint this house up. It's for some Aborigines people. They give them housing over there and stuff like that. He shows up, massive blaze. The entire thing is up in flames. He's like bleeding out. A bunch of Aborigines people are just outside looking at it. He's like, what happened here? And one of the Aborigines just turned to me and just, it was pretty cold.
No, they didn't set their house on fire.
Legit.
That's a joke.
Legit.
That must be a joke.
Legit.
It sounds like
legit.
that sounds like a racist joke. To be honest.
No. It wasn't a joke. Like this is this.
It's pretty cold, so they set their house on fire. They're
Yeah.
not. They're not stupid people.
No. I think they were drunk at the time, but this is nothing to do with racism.
That's
and
a
stuff like that.
stereotype that white people in Australia paint of Aborigines. That they
It wasn't a white person.
It's a literal. Like,
It wasn't a white person that told me.
Okay, who is it?
It was an Aborigines person.
An Aborigine. Okay, interesting.
Do you believe me?
I don't. Do you know why?
He thought I was 45. I had braces and I was 16.
Yeah, but Macedonians don't age well, mate.
We don't.
You don't age well. You're like fucking mountain goats.
We don't.
You come out, or you're like ball bags. As soon as you come out, you're fucking wrinkly.
How dare you? You know what it is? It's our diet. It's mainly just meat and just really heavy carbohydrates and stuff like that. So there's a correlation between the amount of calories you intake and the speed at which you age. Because calorie starving is a thing, although I would never do it, where people basically eat the most minimal amount. And apparently it's meant to make you live longer. But I was like, I would rather live a normal life than live in starvation, live a bit longer.
You think about it, mate. You go back... If I go back 2,000, 3,000 years, which is a fucking blink of the eye compared to our entire existence on this planet. We've existed on this planet for a fucking long time in some way or form. We didn't...
300 million years?
No. We... It's
life.
only a few 100,000.
No.
Sorry, it's only 100 and something thousand.
What's the oldest fossil? Something like...
No, so I'm just saying
Homo
humans. I'm just saying
sapiens is like
humans.
100,000.
I'm not saying other animals.
Yeah, sorry, carry on.
But basically, we lived in that scenario of a calorific deficit of having to eat food whenever or wherever we found it. We didn't have surplus food. We didn't have that until we had
the Industrial Revolution.
No. So even then, like we didn't have it. The real introduction of it became when we went from hunter-gatherers, when we became farmers, basically, and that was only about 12,000 years ago. And even then, most people didn't have that set up. And then you go forward another 10,000 years. So we're talking just the beginning of, you know the difference between BC and AD.
Yeah, it's like 70.
So it's just the beginning of like the ADs is when people started to become more and more sort of, and it got better and better and better. And now we live in a society where everything can be a surplus.
Yeah.
Water can be a surplus. Power can be a surplus.
This is why we starve
Food.
at the level at which we do, because the body's not adapted to it. But also another interesting point is there was like little flourishes of civilization all over the planet, but like in really little. So Babylon, you had Egypt,
Babylon was also known as Mesopotamia.
Mesopotamia, that was like
known as the cradle of the earth.
2000 BC or something like that was going that city.
Cradle of the earth.
And what happened when the Romans came in, which was really interesting, is they kind of went, right, we're starting here, and then they spread their entire monetary system, their army, the legions.
Do you know how they did that?
Categorically, that's the most fascinating thing to me. How did they do that?
The Romans, their way that they worked was they were basically the best at copying. So a good example, a modern example, would be the Japanese during World War II. Or just before World War II. What they basically did was they just copied all of what America did, because America was the basic pseudo superpower at the time, and copied what the British did as well. So basically they just copied what they did. So they took their ideas, took their rules and their concepts, and basically ripped them off and did it their own way. So what the Romans did is they did a very similar thing, where basically they would just adopt other people's religions, for example. So they adopted the Greek religion of the multiple gods. Funnily enough, you know our solar system. You got Saturn, Jupiter, etc. Well, that's Mars. Zeus, Neptune, Zeus, and all the other Greek gods. They're basically almost the similar same set. They adopted the Carthaginian naval system. So you know how they became
which was advanced at the time. So the port that the Carthage had. It was amazing.
So the Carthaginians basically was an empire that was on the top of North Africa. And basically,
modern day Morocco, somewhere near there.
More towards Libya, Libya, Tunisia, right. Libya area. But basically, they had a very advanced navy, an advanced merchant navy as well. So then the Romans didn't really have that. So then eventually, what they did was they copied them. Then they also the currency system they copied from the Mesopotamia system.
We still use that.
Yeah. So all they did was they just copied people. They found what worked the best. Kept it. If then they got rid of the stuff that didn't work.
It's the best way.
And what they did also was their power. They recognized that people needed to have their own individuality. So they didn't say, "Oh, you're Roman now." What they said was, "You're a Romanized Celt. You're a Romanized Carthaginian. You're a Romanized Spaniard."
That's very smart. That's what the Persians did with Xerxes under Xerxes, where they basically said, "You can keep your religion, you can keep your way of life, pay us taxes, follow our laws." And you're good to go. It's not like we're not going to force you to believe this, and the third and fourth. And that's the sign of any empire that's really gone a long way. It's like we're not going to impose anything on you. Do what you need to do.
We just always want to do. All we're doing is we're imposing our rule. We'll let you be an individual.
Yeah.
We respect your individualism. We respect your culture. We respect that. We respect your religion. But we expect obedience. And the Romans were very good at it. A good example is a country that's named after them still to this day. Romania, which is how they used to pronounce it, and we've hobbled it into Romania. That wasn't always called that. It was its own free state, which the Romans almost immediately colonized, took control of, and they put their legionnaires. No, it's Romania. It's Romania.
Yeah.
But they put all their legionnaires who had served long term. They would have villas there. They retired there. And basically, they took control, and they were starting to basically become so powerful in that state that the normal population, the population that was always been there, felt like they were being subject to their rule, and they felt like they weren't part of the culture anymore.
Yeah.
So then they created a civil unrest.
Yeah.
Overthrew the system, and then the Romans had to send an army in, and they sent their army in and suppressed it.
That's
and then
the whole thing with Dracula.
They said to their leaders, they said, if you do this again, or if they said to the entire population, if you do this again, we will wipe you off the face of the earth.
Yeah.
Fast forward about 10, 20, I think actually 50 years.
They did it again.
They did it again, so they rose again, did it. So what the Romans did is they went in and killed everyone. Every single human being they found, came across, killed them. When men, women, children. The legionnaires went in.
They spread fear onto
They
them.
burned, and they basically turned the entire state of Romania, modern-day Romania, it just became part of the Roman state.
So they're still recovering from that. It's still it would take you a long time to recover from mass genocide like that. But they also allowed for something that you said is interesting. They allowed legionnaires to have their own villas. It's one of the only civilizations that I can think that far back that allowed for social mobility.
Yeah.
So to actually rise in the ranks, to just say basically, you serve us, you give us unequivocal loyalty, and you will be rewarded for it. It's not you're born a peasant, you'll die a peasant. It's you work hard for us.
Yeah, exactly. So that was an interesting little walk through fucking history.
Yeah.
We wanted to actually debate a very powerful topic and a very powerful individual, which you've done some research on, I know of, from the Joe Rogan podcasts.
Jordan Peterson.
Mr. Jordan Peterson. The reason being is he recently appeared on a Channel 4 interview. So before you continue on with the podcast, YouTube video, whatever, go and have a watch of that Channel 4 interview with Jordan Peterson. Who was he interviewing with?
Cathy Newman. I think
Cathy
it's on 4.5 million views already.
Yeah, so go and watch that. The reason why is that Jordan Peterson, he comes from the world of academia, and he, in essence, looks to dissect our modern the modern social justice warrior movement. So lots of people will know about this. Some people even may be part of this who listen to our podcast. And he dissects basically the reason why certain people, certain groups have come to prominence now, and we're having a large change in our society.
Yep, button heads definitely.
So he and other people have called that postmodernism.
Yeah, that's the
now.
title.
I'm going to be very honest here, of the terms of I am not an academic psychologist. I'm not an academic sociologist. Don't have any of those skills. I don't have those skill sets whatsoever. I do have is history degree, basically. So I look at it in more of the linear...
What's happened before,
what is replicating itself.
Yeah, and I'm just a regular bloke, so I can give my 2 cents
so this
based
is where
off like...
The gentleman's debate will be, as there are 4, with Josh being there as well, we will take a point of view each. So what I'd like is you'll probably take the pro argument, so to support what we're debating. Then you have the con argument, so somebody who's saying I don't agree with that whatsoever. And then you might have the devil's advocate, as I love the term devil's advocate, who sits in the middle and will just say, well, that doesn't sound right, this doesn't sound right, and kind of mediates the entire situation, just to give it more of a well-rounded opinion. Because what you don't want as a scenario is, let's say, for example, the pro person. So the pro person is really good at explaining that argument. The con person isn't quite there with the same sort of thing. It or doesn't. Yeah. But then, or it doesn't just know. Maybe they don't know how to articulate a certain point. So if we started talking about mathematics, I'm terrible at mathematics. I wouldn't be able to argue it very well. But the devil's advocate would jump in and wouldn't let it be one-sided. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it kind of like it levels it out.
And then Josh is here basically to do all of our research. So if when we say something, he could go, actually, that's correct, or that's incorrect, or back us up, basically.
I'm fact-checking.
You're the fact checker. You're Mr. Fact Checker. We
can do that if you want. Now we can pick 2 sides.
On Pointless, the game show Pointless, you are, what's his name, Osmond?
I'm out. I better watch it.
I can't remember.
Guy with the glasses, massively tall guy.
I know what you mean. But
so we need to get you some glasses and some stilts. It's not George Osmond, is it? I fucking forgot his name. I know his surname. I know what he looks like. He's actually quite a nice bloke.
I'm off camera, so no one would see.
Exactly. So. Yes.
He has got glasses on. He's really tall.
No one knows that I'm wearing a dress right now.
Got a bit of tongue-in-cheek on him, just like Osmond or whatever his name is.
Nice. Cool. So basically, I like what Jordan Peterson, the way he talks.
Are we going to establish what point we're both on? Because we might end up agreeing accidentally.
We could agree accidentally. So
should we flip a coin and then one's one side, one's the other?
Do I have any coins?
Should we do it?
Right. This is a impromptu thing. Oh yeah, I've got coins.
Yeah.
Should we do the British pound coin, the new one? No. We're a British podcast. So if there anyone who's watching, The new. Who hasn't seen this? This is the new pound coin. Yeah. Looks like
They've
it looks like a
decided
mini
to-
£2 coin, basically. Okay. What do you Do you want to be the one, and then we decide off the back of it? So do you want to choose heads or tails? Do you want to choose, or should I choose? Because I'm the one flipping.
I'll choose. So I'll say
choose.
heads on JP's side, tails on Cathy Newman's side.
So hang on, was Cathy Newman trying to be against him? Or
She was trying to argue for equality and treating everyone fairly, pronoun system and everything like that.
Okay, so you, depending on how this goes, you get either the pro or the con argument.
Yeah.
Cool. And I'll try and catch it. So this is
Try-
going to be
try.
with a microphone near me and on a video. So
Just go
here
for
we go.
it. You can do it.
Oh, I almost fucked that. Almost fucked it. Right,
There we
ready?
go. Yep.
Tails.
Tails. So I'm arguing for Cathy Newman's side.
Cathy Newman's side. So you're arguing for equality.
Okay.
So equality. But here's, I kind of wish I'd had that, to be honest.
Yeah.
Anyway. Cool. So Jordan Peterson's main argument is we're all individuals and we're in a big community, a very connected community nowadays, and everybody feels like we should be of equality. Everyone should be equal. That's what the consensus is.
But also that there's a hierarchy within that, and then people naturally fall within that hierarchy.
Yes. So my argument is, or Jordan, on the side of Jordan Peterson, or basically the side of what I would pose as normal rationality. But anyway,
Have you heard the lobster story as well?
We'll get onto the lobsters. But basically, the idea is that, in my belief, and this is my honest belief as well, not just me doing it for the sake of the coin flip, is that just because we're all born and we all breathe the same air and we all drink the same water and we all eat the same food does not mean that we all have the same opportunity or the same. We're not all the same. We're all different individuals. And that when people start going, everyone's equal and the same, that's when you start entering into a world of basically being in a cult. Because as soon as you start considering that everybody is equal, everything, so my physical traits, your physical traits, my mental traits, your mental traits are equal. No matter
I don't
the
know.
scenario.
I don't know, because I think it's more to do with the fact that you want equal opportunity throughout the board. I think the main argument from this side is everyone, wherever you're born or whatever you do, you need to have fairness within built into it. Now, you will say, obviously, there's a hierarchy. Obviously, there's some people are going to be faster. They're going to be smarter. They're going to be more intellectual. My argument against that is, based off this society, you might be 10 times better than me at, for example, in business, in career, in success, in conscientiousness. But if you actually change the society itself, someone who's more empathetic, someone who's more caring towards others, someone who's more like, for example, a different way would succeed. So I'm saying the parameters are set. What we're trying to do is change the parameters so everyone gets an equal chance and an equal say. Isn't that not fair?
I don't believe it's the way I'd put it is I don't believe that there should be because what you're saying there is we change the game to make it equal for everyone. So what we're trying to say
equal
there,
opportunity.
No, you're saying equal outcome. That's different. So equal outcome and equal opportunities are two things. So for me, equal opportunities are fantastic.
Elaborate.
So an equal opportunity basically means in essence, we have this already. We speak the same language. We have the equal opportunity of basically spewing out words. However, the outcome of it could be that one of us is able to give the language better than the other person. So is able to get across their message better than the other person. We've both got the equal opportunity.
No, I see what you did there, but I didn't say equal outcome at all. It's about equal opportunity to start off the bat, and the society itself.
Because you're saying changing the game. So what you said was the idea.
No, but the game itself is corrupt in itself. But
that doesn't matter.
How many CEOs? It's like 50 times. You're 50 times more likely to be a psychopath if you're a CEO.
So
that means you're 50 times more likely to do things without any empathy towards anyone who's got working jobs and families and everything like that. You're just going to be, this is best for my business. Sometimes the best thing for your business is basically creating an island account in Ireland and saving 10 billion in taxes to siphon your money for Costa Rica, to do all that bullshit, whilst the rest of the people that are doing the work and are doing the bullshit, they're the ones that are left to fucking pay for the bill, just like the subprime mortgage crash in '08. They're the ones that have to fucking front it. I say we.
So the reason why I'm going to... When you're saying like, it's the CEOs are let's put it this way: you're saying so the CEOs are corrupt.
I'm saying that
They're corrupt.
The chances. The thing is, psychopaths have their roles in society.
Let's not even categorize them as psychopaths because not every single CEO is a psychopath.
No, this is what I mean. No, that you've just got a 50 times more likely to become one.
But not
to be one. Sorry,
but no, let's put it. Psychopaths are a very small part of our
1%
society.
of the population.
Yeah, 1%. So that means that they're still probably going to be a very small percentage, maybe more inflated. I'll agree there. Of a CEO or hierarchical part of our society. So anyone who's a leader. So you have a higher propensity for being of that psychological situation when you're a leader.
Are we not sick of our leaders, though? Are we not sick of our leaders telling us lies and bullshit?
Now you're jumping. So
because that's politicians as well. That's the same correlation.
I'm going to go to that point because you didn't let me finish that point.
I'm sorry. I'm just trying to rile you up a bit.
But you've got that. Yeah, they might have that. But that's because they're got an individual trait that makes them more successful than the rest of the people. They have
based off this society, based off this society
trait.
where you can basically shut anyone down based off, if you have no empathy.
Side. That's your side's problem. Is that you're
no, it's not my side's problem. It's inhumane to basically say I want to defeat this person. I'm not going to do it in a fair way on a fair battlefield. I'm going to go behind their back and stab them. And I'm going to keep doing that until I get to the top. When I get to the top, I won't think about any person when I'm at the top. I'm just going to think, I can do whatever the heck I want. I'm at the top.
So what you're making an assumption there is that that psychopaths are only bad?
Pardon?
You're making an assumption that psychopaths are only bad.
No, I'm saying that psychopaths' goals are centered towards self-preservation and self-elation.
So they're going to
just roll through everyone when they do so.
An example would be there was a book that was written about Andy McNabb. You know Andy McNabb?
I've heard about Andy McNabb.
So Andy McNabb is not his real name, but he used to be in the Special Air Service, the United Kingdom's Special Forces. Andy McNabb was somebody who did not have any sort of opportunities because he was a young man who was orphaned. He performed very poorly at school, and he joined the army very young age, very, very young age. And basically, he climbed the ranks in the armed forces through Northern Ireland, in the service of Northern Ireland, basically. And then he went through the testing for the Special Air Service. For anyone who wants to understand how rigorous that is, basically just Google how to get to the SAS.
There's TV shows on that.
There's TV shows now, but in actuality, there is one issue I have with, SAS Who Dares Wins on Channel 4. The issue is there's another guy who's doing it.
I know you mean.
He's a big jacked guy. He's got dark beard.
He did that thing where he went across the Australian Trail with the.
I've got an issue with it. He wasn't in the SAS. He was in the SBS. So the SBS is the Special Boat Service, which is a very similar wing, but not precisely the same. So that's the only issue I've got with it. To go back. Andy McNabb is very prominent because of his book writing now, and also he's a consultant for films as well, to do with special forces, firearms, etc. And basically, he was studied by a psychologist, a doctor of psychology, and the doctor wrote a book about it, termed The Good Psychopath. And what it termed was that Andy McNabb was a psychopath. He had all the traits of a psychopath, but he was a good, inverted commas is what I'm doing with my fingers now, guys, a good psychopath, because he realised to get the best out of people, instead of manipulating them, as in manipulating them in a negative way, he manipulated them in a positive way. So he manipulated them into a way of creating them to be, or gesturing with them to perform their best. So basically what he do is to get his men who were under his service to perform to their utmost, he would use positive techniques to be able to do it. But the psychological study of him was that he had psychopathic tendencies.
No, I completely agree with you. At the end of the day, this is what I'm trying to say. 1% of the population psychopaths. So we can't discount 76 million people. We bang on about equality. We're not going to basically turn around and basically say, oh, you're a psychopath, you don't deserve to live or any of that. I don't agree with that. That's absolutely extremism that we get pegged towards that was nothing like us. How's my acting better? What we're trying to do is basically say, like you said, they need to be programmed in a way to actually benefit society. Now, this society is all about self-serving, self-accumulation of wealth, and then it basically goes to the top echelons. So what happens is, if you're someone who is psychopathic, has egotistical tendencies, and wants to work for yourself, you can get very far. You can get very, very far in the top echelons of power. But when you get there, fair enough, they're leaders, but proper leaders are the ones that think for the people. Everything is to do with the people that they're going to serve, not themselves, which is what we're seeing right now with what we're getting. So that's why we're upset.
So the issue I have with it,
we can flip the coin if you want, and then
no.
switch
So the issue I've got with it is obviously we're going with a very small subset of the population. So we're just narrowing down on the psychopath thing, but I think we're looking at that in too much detail.
Oh, we can jump to another section.
So just go macro, so the whole population. So not micro. Go to the macro of the entire population and it's mostly Western states, because they're the ones who have, they've got enough money, enough time, and enough technology to be able to have this entire discussion on online platforms and have access to the internet.
Yeah.
Now it's interesting. Like, have you ever heard the term? And I've definitely heard this term, but have you ever heard the term white privilege?
Yeah.
Yeah, most people have. It's interesting that people who make a lot of these debates, so I'll take this back and I'll go to, there should be equality of gender. Okay? So let's pick that specific argument. So there should be equality of gender. Yeah? Most people are fairly happy with that argument. But when you have to look into it in depth, what does that actually mean? So equality, I would say, most people would assume that men and women are treated the same. Yeah?
Well, there's so
just
many
just
multifaceted
no, I'm not going with pay, I'm not going with society, I'm just going the difference between somebody who identifies as a man and somebody who identifies as a woman.
I disagree. I think they should be treated the same, but they're not. They're not.
And that's the important bit. So there's a reason why there's a lot of people who are social justice warriors who say they should be treated the same. Yeah? There's a reason why they say that, and I'll get onto that in a second. But in our society, men and women are not treated the same. Why is that? Is it because we're all inherently sexist? I would argue no. Is it because we're all bigoted? I'd argue again no. Would it be that we have a dominant hierarchy by the patriarchal system, as in men dominate leadership? Arguably, that's a good point, because when you look at the correlation of people who are CEOs, kings, politicians, it's mostly males, isn't it? But
in this regard, like at the end of the day, I'll let you finish your point, but I'll let you finish your point.
Okay.
Can I just add there?
Yes, mate.
All kings are male.
Yeah, okay, sorry. So I meant
for the longest time, females
monarchy.
have basically.
I meant monarchy. Sorry,
Thank females have had the rough hand, and it's only recently, like with the revolutions and the rights movement, and like the right to vote. Back in 1940, and it's only now that it's started to change. Now the thing is, at the moment, you guys might be like, "Oh, this is all too much. This is like, why is it going too far? Why is everyone getting so angry about it?" I'd taken it to pushing a massive boulder up a hill, and that's basically trying to get that belief up there that there should be equality. If you stop pushing it, if you are as loud in this society, one, you're not going to get heard. Two, if you stop pushing it, it's going to go all the way back down, and it's going to go back to a point where there is suppression, because you can't deny that there was suppression, majorly.
So
there was like,
yeah, I
go
can
back
see,
just even 50 years.
I can see, but I don't think it was in terms of let's suppress an entire population to suppress the population.
There's still a population being suppressed in Saudi Arabia.
But the reason why I'd argue it was done is because of financial interests in keeping the status quo.
I'm saying that I know the reason why it's done. I'm just saying that in general it wasn't.
I want to address the core part, and this is something that comes from Jordan Peterson's main sort of crux, is the reason why we treat men and women differently is because they are different. Totally different. I mean, on a genetic level, men and women are different. You
You can treat them differently, but you can still treat them fairly.
I'm not saying that. Notice I've never said treat people fairly or treat people poorly.
You're taking the way too literal point of this argument.
You can, but this is the point. I'm taking it to a point, the nth degree, because then you can extrapolate back as to why our society is smashing heads where you have the left-ish and you have the right-ish, who are basically hammering at each
even
other.
further apart.
And
now it's the hard left.
There's the polarization of both ends, and this has happened before. We know where this is going. So you have the polarization of the left, where the left says that you cannot be liberal enough, and they eat themselves. And they've taken everybody who used to be in the centre left, and they've moved them either here or they've moved them to the right.
It's becoming.
And then the right
is a worrying trend.
Is becoming segregated from the rest of society. It's not accepted. It's not. So the right-hand side. So this is an example. If I started talking about certain subjects, people would call me a Nazi. So they would immediately discredit my argument. Like, you're a Nazi.
He's trying to put you in a box to basically stop you with the argument.
So what happens when you do that
is so hard not to
you seal that person into an echo chamber. So you put them in it's not that they put themselves, it's that you're putting them there because they're not accepted into society. And this happens with the left as well, but it's more apparent with the right, especially when we saw stuff like Charlottesville in America. Do you remember that?
No.
There's a mass protest basically at Charlottesville, the university, where a load of neo-Nazis, and these were proper neo-Nazis, turned up and basically started protesting. And people in America were like, how is this possible? Like, people, you saw, like, I thought this was over. It's never going to be over, because what you do is, anyone who has conservative views, you demonize. You demonize them because you think that they are of a super right-wing leaning, and then you use an offensive term like a fascist or Nazi. So then what they do is they go, well, I must be a fascist or Nazi because I've been called a fascist or Nazi. And these are people usually who don't have very good social skills. And what they do is they look to other people.
What we're trying to do is to basically say, we are saying you're this, defend it. Are you or are you not? Do you believe in equality or do you believe in white supremacy? Where do you stand on the line?
So, like, because most people who join the right-wing groups aren't hardcore. They aren't. Let's look at this in an example of history. So you look at the Nazis in Germany. So what you had massive economic depression. You had a super strong left-wing, the Communist Party. You had a super strong, or not really, but there wasn't a very good right-wing department there after World War I. But then it grew. And it grew and grew and grew. And it became more powerful because they were acting in opposition to the fear of the left, which was communism. And they kept growing and they kept growing. And then more charismatic leaders who had very strong intent, arguably psychopaths, arguably sociopaths, took control. For example, Adolf Hitler took control of that party. But most people who were in the Nazi party, the people who wore the badges, most of they didn't agree with all of it. They
so
agreed
you're saying
with parts
that the left is pushing you further to the right.
So it's that you cannot be liberal enough. You cannot be virtuous enough in the left. So, like, if I was in the left camp, I would have to say I'd have to be, like, gender equality. I'd have to be Black Lives Matter, Me Too. I'd have to tick every single box. But that doesn't make sense because not every
break out of the debate to say that I do agree in a certain extent that there is. I'll liken it to Greek mythology, and this is something that I believe, like, it goes proverbial. It's like a law of the universe. It's basically when Kronos was told by a prophet that his son would kill him. Yeah. So he would then eat all his sons to prevent him getting killed by one of his sons.
Oh, is this how Zeus?
Yeah. And by doing so, Zeus's mother hid him from Kronos, and because Zeus knew what happened, he ended up killing Kronos. So by trying to prevent a thing, you caused it. And this goes throughout Greek mythology, goes throughout actual happening with the Romans and
for the depth of the. So Kronos was before the Greek gods existed in Greek mythology.
There was Titans. Yeah.
There was the Titans, and Kronos was basically the father figure of that. And then, as Mickey correctly said, he was prophesied that his son would kill him, or one of his children would kill him. So he would eat them and keep them in his stomach. So that was not Neptune. What's the bloody name of the sea god of the Greeks?
Poseidon.
Poseidon. I think it was Hades.
Poseidon, and Zeus.
And then there was a sister which then Zeus eventually had a child
Venus.
with.
Athena, the Venus.
I think it was Athena, but I'm not sure. But basically, the whole point was that
Hercules,
what happened was Zeus's actions were predetermined by his
Kronos'
father's actions.
So basically, the argument goes that if you go too hard of a thing to prevent something, you, as a result, turn people to the thing that you're trying to prevent.
This is what we saw in Charlottesville.
This is what really, this is what annoys me. Like, I saw the interview and stuff like that, and the way that it was getting proposed and stuff like that. I know that we're trying to argue either side, but it was all about trying to pin some sort of blame on Jordan Peterson. So you're saying this. So you're like the worst possible way. And he was like, no, I didn't say that. This is actually what I said.
Yeah.
And it was kind of this whole thing where the left and the right can't seem to speak anymore. This is why the reason why this video was absolutely blown up. It's like 4.5 million views. How much is it on at the moment?
Yeah, could you just check that for us, Joe?
It was 4.1, but I'm assuming I accounting for the fact.
See how many views it's got. I think it's
4.2.
Channel 4 interview with
Just
Jordan Peterson.
Cathy Newman. And people are sick of not being able to talk to each other. Because then what will happen is you'll speak, providing the scenario, and you'll be like, you're a neo-Nazi, or you're this, or you're that, you're the third. You're not, but they're trying to put the worst.
That's what I was saying.
And you put it on me, you're like, oh, you're a social justice warrior, you're trying to basically, equality for everyone, out of fairness of outcome, how are we going to do that? There's no one in between. So what happens is we're becoming two massively different opposing sides, and the last thing I want is for us to split.
So it's good to recognise that.
There's a bit in there where
And
I
this
was
is
like,
where-
I'm centrist in that regard. Screw it. I don't care what these people say.
And this is where
4.6 million.
4.6 million views that's
It's gone
had.
up like
On YouTube, is that?
500,000.
YouTube, yeah.
Yeah,
How
YouTube.
long ago was it uploaded?
1 week ago.
1 week and it's had 4.6.
This
The only,
is why it
the only person
speaks
who's
to
beating
people.
that is Logan Paul.
Yeah, it speaks to people.
Yeah.
It really does.
Mhm.
Knob.
Yeah, he's a bit of an idiot, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's done a apology video for it, but I think YouTube are basically like. So into segue, I'll come back to the point I
By
was
the
going to make.
apology video, do you mean the comeback video?
Yeah, it's comeback video. Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, YouTube have changed their monetization rules, which does impact us. But it basically impacts all of the micro channels. In essence, now you have to have 10,000 views, 4,000.
Likes.
What was it?
subscribers.
So
Can
it
you
was
clarify, please?
1,000 subscribers
1,000.
and 4,000 hours of watch content.
And then 10,000, and then you need to also qualify with 10,000 plays. Is that correct?
Not anymore, I don't
Not
think.
anymore. So it's just 4,000 hours of watch
Yeah.
to be monetized to start the monetization
They're
process.
basically shooting themselves in the foot there because someone could start a botnet and just watch a video that's an hour long. And
Apparently they can track that. Apparently they can track
they
who's a
might have
fake viewer.
algorithms for that. But no, what you could even do is you could go on your laptop, stick on 10 videos by yourself of your own podcast. That's 10 hours right there.
I suppose that
And
in a
then
way
that's-
they have done it to weed out the people that aren't really into it, or just ripping off a film. That
Yeah.
they've
It seems like
downloaded,
it's become
putting
like
it
a
on YouTube,
hierarchy
making
and the
money
bottom
from
end's
that.
getting swiped. Sorry, Josh.
But it should get swiped because
You want good content.
fake it till you make it's not the right way.
You
to
just
do
got to
it.
make it.
Just got to make it, man.
Yeah, and that's something
Even
that
if it takes a while.
that's something we're doing with the podcast. Obviously, immediately we're not the most, we're not the biggest podcast on the planet, not yet. But the idea is basically just keep creating it because we enjoy doing this. I actively enjoy doing the podcast because of the way that you can sit down and just talk with each other in a very easy format. Yes, you are recording it, so therefore there might be some skewed views, but it's just an interesting way of doing this. It's a good way of just basically what I would say is recording a pub conversation or a cafe, like in a cafe conversation sort of thing, coffee shop.
Good little role
chat.
play, as I say.
Yeah.
So-
I mean, going back to, I think we'll go back to the.
Well, speaking about what we monetization, I feel
Oh, yeah.
like it's partly pandering to the advertisers.
Yeah, have to. That's how they make the money.
Yeah,
if there's no
'cause-
advertisers, YouTube doesn't make any money.
'Cause
Google doesn't make any
Did you
money.
hear about Adpocalypse last year?
Yeah, it fucked
Stuff
everybody.
like that, yeah.
I mean, Google were hit hard by that. Companies pulled out, like Coca-Cola,
Oh, yeah.
Disney. They pulled out.
AT&T.
They were just like,
Verizon.
nah, we're not taking the risk because they don't want to be tied to basically like terrorism videos, racist videos.
Or with PewDiePie, it was like Nazi propaganda.
So that was
I mean, that was blown.
That was
his
completely
his
out
was a
of
joke.
proportion.
His was
Yeah.
a joke,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I mean, he did also say when he was playing PUBG, he did say the N-word.
yeah.
Yeah, that.
Now that's when you start to actually 1+1.
However, this is an example. So this is and this ties in actually to the Jordan Peterson argument, because he does talk about this in the Joe Rogan podcast.
It's a little slip up. It's not as bad as,
I don't know, mate, because
videoing a dead body hanging from a tree.
Let's put it this way: is the N word in your vocabulary as an insult?
You don't do the N word.
Sorry, as an exclamation of surprise. No. Is it in yours? It's not in mine. I mean, just because he's Swedish? Is he Swedish?
Yeah,
Finnish.
Felix Baumgartner.
Whatever. But just because of that, like, I've never exclaimed the N word in surprise. I mean, I am not a character out of fucking Django. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not a thing that you just... Because that one word possibly is one of the most offensive words on the entire planet. Yeah, when you really think about it.
We're not living in a Tarantino film.
Exactly. We're not in a Tarantino film where we can exclaim that multiple times and there's basically no problem with it. But this is the tie-in where, like, you've got problems where a word like that holds so much power. People try to use that, and they hold a lot of power
for somewhere else.
Exactly.
This is the thing that I'm worried. Like, my parents always used to tell me when you were in school, like, first they told me this, and it was probably the worst thing, is if someone calls you a name or does anything like that to you, beat them up. And I did that.
Oh yeah,
for the longest time. I've got scars on my hands. I've got like a scar there from a golf club. It was pretty rough. And then after that, I realized, no, ignore them. Because what happens if you do, you take away their power. Because people say, oh, well, if you're the hardest kid or blah, 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 and I wasn't, but like I used to fight people.
Yeah.
They leave you alone. They don't. They just keep doing it. I don't. But if you ignore what they say...
I have never been in a fight.
You never?
Never.
Oh, yeah.
The only thing that annoys me is that weird stomach pain you get after the adrenaline wears off. But it's not. There's no need for it. Like, I've learned as an adult to just completely, if someone does it, and you get it in town, you get people like,
oh, so,
and then you just kind of like, if you turn away from them, you take it away from them. It's only those really that want to go after you.
So this is a thing where
those are the ones that get dealt with.
Because I think a lot of kids have gone through some form of bullying, or they will do.
Yeah,
but basically, bullying can take on many different things. Because you could be bullied by your parents, which is a dark thing to think about, and that's where kids who are bullies at school get
like
it from.
Like that YouTube channel with those kids. Yeah,
exactly. But the way I had it was basically I was really timid. In fact, I was so timid to a point where I didn't stand up for myself, and basically I was a soft target, and people would keep hammering at me, but I always reacted. So I always reacted to it in some way, not physically. And I wasn't very, very smart either. And I'm probably not very smart whatsoever. I'm just, there's certain things I'm good at and there's certain things I'm not. But you need to recognize that as a person. And basically, to a point where I had I think towards the last years of secondary school, I had a personality change. That doesn't sound correct, and probably a clinical psychologist would kind of go, oh, fuck. But in essence, I had a click where I realized, why am I being so timid? Why can't I be more assertive? And that's where I learned to be more bombastic and more surprising and more engaging, but also more aggressive. So I became much more aggressive. And it's still in the head. Like, that doesn't stop. The aggression is there. Always there. And then when I got to college, I didn't let that happen. So the first time that a kid who went to college with me said something about me, I smashed him. Like, I went full hammer and tong, trying to hurt him as much as possible. And I got a reputation as not an easy target, as somebody who has a switch that just, that's it. And it was a very interesting, like, looking back on it now, it's a very interesting way. And I still see echoes of the aggression.
That's interesting. That's very interesting.
But I basically, my entire personality changed. So I wasn't as timid. I was much more assertive. I'm willing to talk about a lot of stuff. There are some things I'm quite like, I don't want to talk about it because I don't have the expertise in it.
The reputation that was given to you is not, it's basically, if you say something that will upset Simon, he will punch you in the face.
Yeah, that kid didn't do well after, because he dropped out of college. Not saying it was to do with me, but he dropped out of college. He tried to join the armed forces, and I think he got kicked out basically of the armed forces. So I felt sorry for him because my family are all A lot of my family, come from the armed forces, so I felt really sorry that it got discharged. But
no, it happens. Some
it happens.
Have a problem with authority if they've not been.
Yeah, some people don't know how to cope with it. But that's because the problem you got there with the armed forces is you're not you're not an individual anymore. They take your individuality away from you, and they make
That's
you.
why so many people have problems leaving the army.
They make you wear a uniform. They make you listen to people. They basically break you down so that if you're an
individual.
However,
you're
I
not
will
going
say,
to kill someone.
Armed forces, people in the armed forces, when it comes to getting stuff done, are very driven, because they know the importance that their individual role plays.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. Some people don't do well with the lack of individuality.
And some people do.
And some people do really well, but that's because they realize it's being the individual helps the community. Does that make sense? Now, going back to that Jordan Peterson, because this is actually the segue I wanted. Your individuality is exceptionally important. And the sort of freedom of your individuality is summed up in our court system. So our judicial systems, for example, you are innocent until proven guilty. And you are tried as an individual. Can't really be tried much as a business in the United Kingdom, at least. In the US you can, but we'll gloss over that fucking thing. But you are an individual, you have your own set parameters. But in essence, we all have equal opportunity. As in, we have bones, we have muscles, eyes. Some people have birth defects, which is just not something that can be overcome. But that's a unique part of them that they then have to overcome, or not. So then when you look into when somebody's trying to paint a brush, and they're saying, we all need to think the same. We all need to do the same.
That's not
we need to treat people.
Is that what you really
equally.
believe?
What, as in?
Is that what you believe that is what's wanted?
That people should be treated as...
We are celebrating the individuality.
I don't think so at all.
Like, if someone wants to come out as transsexual or any other type of... We're not going to suppress them and say, no, you are going to fall in these lines. We're going to say, do it. Be your own individual. Be what makes you truly happy in your skin, because otherwise you'll never be happy. You know what the suicide rates of transsexual people are? 40%.
That's very high. I think it's also the same for gay people as well.
Yeah, 40. Imagine that, 40%.
Here's a worrying statistic.
It's crazy.
Well, if we're talking about suicide, which is obviously a dark topic, which we'll try to do some levity later on. Suicide rates have been climbing in certain populations and falling in other populations. Again, using large stereotypes.
Data, yeah.
Would you like to know the one it's climbing in the most? It's actually been shown in Logan Paul's video.
But white males between the
not
ages of 20 and 45.
It's not specifically white, but it's young males.
Yeah, massive. There's a big problem there.
Big spike.
There's a big problem there. And there's a lot of arguments to and from that. They say that with women, they can be emotional to their female friends and kind of like talk about that. And they get the emotional support they need that way. Guys don't really have that. And this is also a really interesting point I was talking to my girlfriend about. We had this massive debate about the friend zone. And she said, have you ever thought about this? Have you ever thought that men are actually not dying, but really they need emotional kind of like connections with people in their lives. So what happens is when they get a female friend and she's used to emotional connections, she gains an emotional connection with him, and he then perceives that as, oh, I love her, she's amazing, she's like the best thing in the world, and what she's doing is what she would do with her friends. And what the guy is he's lacking in a certain factor, which is that if you go into many societies and you go to your friends and you're like, I'm lucky, my friends aren't like that, but you go there and I'm not feeling good today, or I feel like they'd be like, oh, cool, hope you're right.
Here's an example. Here's something
that's a big problem.
I think there is a point. I think there's a point there, but I think that the issue we have is that men, specifically young males, have a very hard time acclimatizing to basically becoming like an adult, because it's young men in that sort of post-puberty age. The reason being is they go through puberty at a older age than women do.
Yeah.
Women have go for it at a younger age, so they become sexually mature at a younger age, and that's interesting, isn't it? That it's completely different for two different genders. But so men struggle, and then they struggle to find their place in the world. And as you said, the problem you have is the emotional connections are very poor for men. However, that's because of, and the argument can be made, That's due to evolutionary situations.
You could say that.
We've evolved to this point. We have evolved, and people who say that there's no such thing as evolution, etc., I'm very worried when somebody says there's no such thing as evolution, and they criticize that. But then I also am very, very wary of somebody where they start going, there are superior races, or they're superior segments of the population.
Like that, yeah.
So
Yeah,
you know how
really
the counter to my argument is, where I'm saying like people should be individuals, and that there are people who are clearly better than other people. You've got to really watch out for that shit, because if you go too far, then you go into this right-wing mentality. So like my actual
this is
core,
the scary thing.
My actual core is I have a lot of left-wing beliefs. However, I rationalize it using a lens of some right-wing ideas, concepts, if you will, to make it so that it brings them into the center, because the center is exactly where everybody wants to be. You want a bit of both.
Yin and yang. I'm exactly the same. I do the exact same
yin and
thing.
yang. So the thing I'm criticizing when I criticize is the one that I find the most abhorrent, and that's usually the left wing, the super left, communism left, socialism left, libertarian left, progressive left. Because the right wing you can understand, because it's a dark base part of you. Does that make sense?
Well, this is the
evil
way I'd
part
liken
of
it
you.
to. It's like
Well, everyone can understand this. Sorry,
politics is like music. This is the way it jumps. So, for example, if you're listening, for example, to Justin Bieber,
yeah,
and then you go straight away to listening to heavy metal, Ask Alexandria, bro.
Ask Alexandria isn't that heavy.
Oh yeah, no. Anyway,
Sabbath. Let's go with Black Sabbath.
Black Sabbath. The
Heavy?
jump,
That's heavy-ish.
The jump is too much. So what you do if you want to go from one to the other is just slowly. So what I'm trying to say is people are listening to one major side and the other side. So they're going. If you slowly start to say, well, these are these beliefs, and you quantify it in your mind and say, look, but I believe in that bit from that side, and then that bit from that side. Like, you know what my girlfriend is in terms of her political beliefs. Like, I showed her Jordan Peterson, and I showed her, like, the videos in which he dissects.
Did she react? How did she react to him?
At first,
curiosity.
Here we go. She believes in his points in terms of like he made a lot of points about relationships, how there needs to be like that push. You can't have a dominant or a submissive partner. There needs to be like a wall, not a wall, but like you both learn by
like the Himalayas. You know about the Himalayas?
No.
So the Himalayas in basically is where two continents are hitting each other, and what they're doing is they're pushing the Himalayas up like that.
Yeah, exactly. That's
rather than other, like on the San Francisco fault line.
Yeah.
Or San Andreas fault.
Yeah.
It's this. For the people who are listening to the podcast, basically it's where one plate is dipping below the other.
Yeah.
And the other one's crushing the other.
And then this goes on to Jordan Peterson's debaters and says that, strong, independent women don't want a submissive partner, but they will settle for one.
Interesting.
And then this is what he said in regards to that. She believes in all of that. And then when I saw the Cathy Newman, Jordan Peterson interview.
There's an example. Serena Williams, best tennis player on the fucking planet. Jacked.
Yeah.
Her husband.
Yeah.
He looks like a normal guy. He is the CEO of, it's not Amazon, but it's a big tech company.
But Jeff Bezos is the CEO of Amazon.
I can't remember. Can you just Google who Serena Williams' husband is?
Oh,
But he's not a physically dominant man.
It doesn't
mentally
have to be
dominant though.
Mentally, it doesn't really matter that much physically. You see that all the time. You'll go in town and you'll see this gorgeous girl and like next to her, and you're like,
Josh, do you have the?
But women put a lot more stock.
He's the co-founder of Reddit.
Oh shit!
What's
his name?
I'm gonna mess
Try
up
and
his
pronounce
pronunciation, but Alexis Ohanian.
Ohanian, yeah, Alexis Ohanian, yeah.
So he's the co-founder of Reddit.
Yep.
Which is like the fourth most visited website on the planet.
So you got a guy whose brain power is off the fucking charts, and you've got a woman whose athletic prowess is off the charts. But it's that they're different. They complement each other. Yin and yang. You need the two.
Well, this is
make it.
This is what I mean.
The problem we got is the more that you go, the more left wing you drive your society. It's like Star Wars, the balance in the Force. There was only Luke Skywalker who was of the light side after the events of Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then the dark had to rise to balance the Force.
There always has to be the balance.
There always has to be the balance. So when your society, our society, modern Western society, is being driven super left wing, that's where the rise of right wing comes back.
Well, this goes back to Greek mythology.
So the example I give is, you know the MP who was killed in Yorkshire.
Yep,
She was killed by a neo-Nazi.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah.
That was...
He shot her in the head and then stabbed her repeatedly, and then stabbed another guy who tried to defend her.
Yeah. Bad.
People talk about like how politicians. She was a very interesting. I can't remember. Could you pull up
the thing? It's like when politicians actually
the MP that was killed. I've forgotten her name, but she was a really very good politician.
She was
a very good politician.
Like that.
I think it was Batley and something. MP for Batley and something. I can't remember it fully, but she was a very interesting woman. But basically, she was on the anti-Brexit side. So for people who don't know, in other countries, Brexit basically was where the United Kingdom are now in the process of leaving the European Union. It was a democratic vote that we had, and basically most of the population said that we wanted to leave.
Yeah.
She was very anti it. He saw her as basically a blocker to his beliefs, in the right-wing beliefs. He had never been told that his right-wing beliefs were wrong. He lived in an echo chamber, and online forums where basically he believed he was right. Became more and more radicalized, more and more violent, because he didn't have the same social programming as the rest of society.
Yeah, what point does it
he
go
became
to
isolated.
society,
And this is the problem. Our society is becoming more and more isolated because we're all going, I'm the most virtuous of our group, sealing ourselves away from other people, not having honest reactions, and not honestly talking about stuff, not having chatting shit about stuff. How good is it to chat shit about a specific topic and just go, okay, I know this is a bad topic, but this is something that needs to be addressed and discussed. Did you find the MP? Sorry, Josh.
Yeah, so she was called Jo Cox.
Jo Cox, thank you.
She's a British Labour Party.
She used to live. Here's an idea. Here's the thing. When she visited London, she used to live on a riverboat with her husband. Yeah, she had 2 kids, I think. Poor thing. But the husband's now trying to help, basically make sure people aren't radicalized, and radicalized doesn't apply just to
thing.
terrorism
both sides.
groups.
No, it's both sides that can be radicalized.
Yeah, left and right. So you have left-wing terrorists, you have right-wing terrorists.
Yeah.
It's like you have homegrown terrorists and you have external terrorists.
Yeah, but why would people... This is what people do, is when they try to in some way vilify you, is they associate you with the worst side of yours.
That's what I'm saying.
Instead of saying, you're there, they're like, nope, you're over there because I want to win this argument. I'm like, it's not about winning an argument. It's about trying to figure out how our society works. It's not all about you trying to win an argument.
But some people are like that. And that's where the left... And this is where I'm saying, like, a left-wing approach to that is they want to be seen as the most virtuous. So you look at the left... believe me, when you look at the hardcore left... So here's an example. Communism. Remember... but you don't... neither of us were born when communism actually was going. But the idea was that
I was born at the collapse of a communist country. But
you would audit each other, in essence. So almost a Scientology thing, but basically, if you committed a crime, I was obligated by the communist system to report you for the crime, even if you were my brother, my son, daughter, didn't matter. I would dob you in to the authorities, and then the authorities would take you away. Because it removed individualism. That's the whole point of communism. You remove the individual. The individual isn't important anymore. It's the communist movement. So that's why in communism they all address each other as comrade. It doesn't matter of your rank or your social status, you all were called comrade. So you'd call each other comrade, whether you're a man or a woman. The problem that you've got with communism, and the communism also, when you think about it, treated men and women equally. So men and women were, for example, combat troops. They were also politicians. They were also a lot of other stuff. Now, what they pushed out was, and this is the worst bit about communism, in my opinion, was religion and homosexuality. Because it wasn't beneficial. Homosexuality, because it wasn't beneficial to the Communist Party. Because all they wanted was as many communists as possible. Being homosexual meant you couldn't reproduce. So, no homosexuals. Religion was the ideological threat towards communism. It's almost the opposite to communism. Because communism is all about furthering the movement, the continuously moving the cycle forwards. Whilst religion, no matter what the religion was, so I'm not going to go into the specific religions, is all about spirituality of the self. And it's about recognizing and having your own conscience of yourself. So let's flip it from the left. Ignore all that shit. Let's go to the right. So fascism, Nazis in essence. They addressed the state, so not the communist movement, but the state was the king. Everything was for the betterment of the state. So the state controlled everything. And that's why the Nazis, for example, were called the Nationalist Socialist Party, because they believed in they basically took ideas of the communist ideals, took that, but then put it on a right-wing standing. So militarily strong, politically right-leaning. Again, what was disbanded by the fascists and the Nazis? Homosexuality and religion. And other ethnic groups. But other ethnic groups in communism were also pushed out. Jews, for example, were pushed out. So you look at the left and you look at the right, they do the exact same thing. Because the issue and this is the thing I'm doing. Do you know why I'm putting my arms out? It's because I'm showing a linear thing. It's not linear. It's a circle. And fascism and communism are there next to each other. They're literally there next to each other at the top of the most radical. And the center is right at the bottom. Because it's in the center of everything. So it's the most, and that's where our democratic states work. Because they have a combination of socialism, because everybody gets a vote, but just because you get a vote doesn't mean that you're going to have everything the states gives you. You've got to go and get it. So that's where the democratic works. Does that sort of make sense? You've gone very quiet.
Kind of blow my mind a bit.
See, it's only when you pick at when you look at the history of them. See, this is the problem. Retrospect, hindsight, it's 2020. You can see all clarity because everything's written down and everything's beautiful. Another example of this is fascism, Nazis in Germany, and communism in Russia. They wrote everything down. They had extensive records about everything. Another example of this was after World War II, when Germany was divided. East Germany had their secret police called the Stasi. The Stasi recorded every single citizen down to the T, down to in very, very small detail.
You can see it within when you look at it like that. I don't know. It just came in my head like the entire system that they were trying to create. The order. It's
about control.
The control and
that's what it's about.
You see it going over the entire planet, and just like communism, you saw.
But fascism is the same.
The main thing that it tried to do was, in a way, somehow suppress your free will.
That's exactly what it does. It doesn't recognize it. Communism and fascism do not recognize the individual. They recognize the macro. Democracy is the only real political system that recognizes the individual because you get a democratic vote. You get to pick. Yes, you can be influenced. Not saying that you can't be influenced by external things like companies or political groups or religious groups. Not saying that. I'm saying that the individual, me and you and Josh, have an individual vote on very specific things. Is it good enough? No. I agree that the democratic system needs to be further evolved to be even more delineated, where we go to, the Romans, where we'll go back to the Romans. They didn't have Caesars or emperors to begin with. They had senates, and the Senate had no leader.
Well, it's only when they became Caesars that Rome collapsed.
He took power. He forcibly took power with a right-wing, arguably a right-wing opinion.
The civilization had to go.
Mm-hmm. Because he wanted control of the state, control of everyone, not control of the individual.
Can I take a quick coffee break, if that's all right?
Yeah, I need to pee as well. Could we just take a break? Thanks, mate. Okay. All right, we're back.
Welcome back, guys.
Yes, sorry for that. We just needed a quick pee break. I pissed a large amount. It was a gargantuan amount. Gargantuan, yes. Gargantuan amount.
Linguistics.
Yeah, Mickey held my hips. He secured my hips for me whilst peed.
I did.
It's a little bit of kissing. Anyway.
I felt the need to have a smoke after. It was that good.
Yeah. Back to the podcast. Sorry, guys. Sorry.
Shall we go back to the original debate?
Yeah. So we'll quickly round it off, and then we'll do our little funny news articles, eh, Josh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, talking about, obviously, we have specified a very singular event, which was the Jordan Peterson interview with Cathy Newman on Channel 4 News. But then, obviously, we span it out further to understand the argument. And I think now with the argument I presented, you understand what I meant?
Yeah, I think in general there's a lot of insult hurling from both sides, and both sides are basically it's not to the point now where they're trying to reach some sort of agreement, which is the worrying thing. They're just trying to, in some way,
hold on to what they've got.
Hold on to what they've got with all this like vigor, and like this comes back to the whole thing. Like something I learned recently. Your highest. This is what Jordan Peterson said. Your highest. I think it was him. Your highest belief system that you hold is your God.
Yep.
So it is what they mean by that is the thing you hold and believe in so strongly. That's the thing that dictates your life, and that's the thing that kind of makes you make the decisions that you make. So when that happens to be politics, you hold on to it with such enormous passion that you are not willing to see any other point.
Correct.
That's it. You've got that, and you immediately contact that to your belief system and also your self-identity.
Correct.
So if anyone is talking to you about anything that challenges that belief, you will, instead of opening to it, you will immediately find every single point at which they could be wrong.
And you'll be exceptionally defensive.
Yeah.
Exceptionally defensive. And you will react emotionally because your entire belief system is you. It's like they're attacking you because you subscribe to a team or a code of conduct. And once that code of conduct comes under attack, you feel like you're being attacked, and you must defend the code of conduct or tribe or team,
Which is not the case.
Fervently.
Which is not the case.
Should never be the case. It's the
human
example.
beings need a
The example I give is look at football teams in London. How many football teams are there in London? Could you just Google that for us, Josh? There's 8,
Chelsea,
I think.
Tottenham,
Arsenal,
Millwall, West Ham.
No. Oh, yeah, West Ham. Sorry, yeah, apologies. I thought you meant the Aston Villa because they got the same sort of kit. How many London football teams are there?
Quite a few.
12. So it's 12. Okay. So the way I put it is, I'm an Arsenal fan. You're a Tottenham fan. We hate each other. We hate each other's football teams, right? Funnily enough, we're not dominated our entire lives by our football teams. We can still go down the pub and have a drink and talk about how Arsenal beat Tottenham or Tottenham beat Arsenal or how we beat another London club or any other club, and we can have a civilised conversation, yeah? There's some people who can do that, and they can have a conversation, and I would say, my team's football player, played really well. And then you go, yeah, mine was shit, but your guy was shit as well. And I'd be like, yeah, he was shit, ha ha ha. We'd have a slap on the back and everything. There's some people in the world who can do that.
It's again, within that, it's so deeply ingrained within your belief system, because you're lacking...
But the next level is, you've got those people who are Gunner fans till they die, Spurs fans till they die, Millwall fans till they die. Like, their life is that. And once you attack that, it hurts. It hurts them. Physically, it feels like they're being attacked.
This explains the level of
and
discord.
Exactly. So then the left attacks someone on the right retreats. When the right attacks somebody on the left retreats, and they all become more insulated, and they move, and the political or the cultural divides begin to separate more and more.
Civil war if this continues.
No, because we have the benefit of past. So the example of this is, look at the economic recovery that we've had after our economic crash, right? Our entire social structure didn't collapse like Wall Street did because we had the checks and balances in place to stop it doing what it did.
But the thing is, people's belief structure isn't deeply ingrained within money, but people's belief structure is deeply ingrained within politics.
Mate, people can
it's
be
like
really people can be really deeply ingrained with money.
Yeah, well, positive reinforcement. The more money you make, the more
I work for this company. You work for that company.
It's an easy thing to fall into, and then you think, oh well, I'm a millionaire. I should stop worrying. Most people would think that, but then you say, oh well, my mate's got 200 million. I've only got 20. And then you go into a level of that.
The issue is you're both
entire belief system is about
balling out of control. When you think about it, you're both balling out of control. When you got 200 million or I've got 20 million, both fucking rich. We're in the top 1% of the entire population.
It's all relative. I'm saying this is an inherent issue with it's all relative to perspective. If that was nurtured into something where, okay, you may have 200 million, but I helped 20,000 people this month. Mm-hmm. Or I helped do this, or I helped do that, and it becomes more about what you've actually done for society. If you restructure capitalism in that regard, it will be unstoppable.
I would say that there's an interesting one when you look at capitalism. The reason why it's so successful is because...
Has an answer to everything?
Yeah,
You're depressed, get antidepressants.
It's the interesting thing about capitalism as a conduct of economy, which arguably can be seen as a political movement as well, but let's not really go to that. The reason why it is so successful is because it has redundancies built into it. It's not a radical system, really, when you think about it. It's just a bartering system at the end of the day. It's just a very in-depth one, but it has a lot of redundancies to keep it self-perpetuating so that it can never really properly collapse.
It's really adaptable.
While communism, which is both a political, ideological, and economic system, which is the problem it has, capitalism doesn't care about political or religion. It doesn't care. Whatever way the wind blows that way, capitalism still works. Doesn't matter. But communism is tied. It's all together. It's basically, if one part falls...
You're talking about absolute proper deep Marxist theory.
So if you talk about, let's say, for example, your ideological part of communism collapses, so no one believes in the ideology, no one will use the system.
Well, that's what happened with the collapse of the Soviet Union.
Exactly. But then you look at capitalism, and an entire country's capitalistic system, political system collapses. Like Venezuela. But capitalism's still there. It doesn't just disappear because it's redundant. Redundancies are built in.
The thing within itself, what's happening with Venezuela is whenever someone has a massive upper hand on you and they want to economically dominate you, they can.
Yeah.
You know, there's massive stories coming out of Venezuela where there's warehouses full of food, but they're staying in the warehouses.
Here's an example.
Whilst people are starving.
In the Middle East, there is Saudi Arabia had a trade embargo that and other Arab states against Qatar. And the reason being is because they wanted to politically influence that country, and the country wanted to politically do things differently and economically as well.
This is why, people keep blockchain and fucking cryptocurrency, and everyone's like,
it's not the panacea that people are proclaiming.
It's
so panacea. Sorry, the panacea is basically like a salve, a fix. The lauded savior.
It's not like a savior.
It's never going to be.
It's never going to be one thing that's going to be the savior of the civilization. It's going to be multiple different things, and this is giving more power to the individual to say, "This is my money. This is what I put it in." No bank's going to control the amount of money that comes out of it. No one's going to try and fix the system in that regard. It's a blockchain. It's like a bunch of people, and everyone knows what everyone else did.
Here's the thing, though,
over there,
Mickey. Capitalism will just mold. It'll just adapt.
It will mold to it.
It'll just absorb it. That's what it does. So capitalism has always done this.
Because it's always you can never really prepare for the next technological advancement or the next progress.
Here's another bit. I'll go for. You know, the left wing.
You had all the variables.
So left wing, I
supercomputer.
The left wing I use is the core example of the left wing is always communism. Yeah. Because that's basically the best example of a far left-leaning one. The really weird thing about it compared to right-wing, really weird bit, is because of the communistic way of everyone's equal and everyone has equal opportunity and equal outcome and everyone's got money and everyone can get stuff from the state, etc. The problem you have there is it removes any need for innovation, whilst capitalism continuously needs a cycle of innovation.
Well, the thing is, in regards to that, you do have to also take into account the fact that take the latest out smartphones right now. I've got a 6. Now, this 6 can run all the apps, can run all the YouTube videos I need.
An iPhone 6, sorry.
Yeah, and what capitalism is doing, right, is
making it redundant.
Apple's, last time I checked, 836 billion market cap. So they can't go any further in terms of smartphones.
Correct.
They need a new level of innovation. Now, what's happening is, instead of the big tech companies going in and solving real problems within logistics or within utilities and stuff like that, they're vying, like Google and Amazon are butting heads.
Mm-hmm. Apple
are trying to butt heads with pretty much everyone.
Facebook.
And it's like the most talented people in this planet are all trying to make an iPhone 1 microsecond faster, or trying to put a transistor on a chip that's 5 nanometers across. Like, we are getting to the pinnacle of what we can do based off this current, if we invent graphite chips and stuff like that. But the problem with it in regards to it is there's so many barriers to entry. Like, I always joke around and saying Isaac Newton would have never figured out gravity. We would still be we would have got it a lot later because he wouldn't have had time to chill out underneath a tree.
Here's
to get hit on the head. He would be too busy in the lab. He'd be working 70 hours a week trying to figure out how to make the most profit out of this product.
Yeah.
It's going like he wouldn't be like, I wonder how this works. No, he wouldn't do that. And this is why innovation has kind of gone. So we're just trying to improve.
I don't know.
We're trying to improve big, like over the top, overarching. I'm talking like E equals MC squared, the Manhattan Project, splitting atoms.
But the innovative ideas come only. Here's the weird bit: they only come from a capitalist society.
No, well, you're saying that because we've had a reverberating capitalist society to come from that. I'm just saying that there's going to be a point where capitalism has basically served its purpose. Now, I've always said this: it's like a creation of infrastructure and
capitalism is always going to exist. It's always going to exist. It's just what it becomes.
It depends. What if abundance is added to the element? It's like saying, what if we have everything we ever need in terms of food, water, all the basic necessities, and then some. So every single person on the planet is catered for. Now, we can do that via technology, and people say, no, we can't. I'm saying, no, yes, we can. Like, the people that invented those genetically modified crops basically doubled the yield of the planet overnight. Yeah. And everyone's freaking out about food, and they're like, oh, we don't have to worry about that anymore because we kind of figured it out. Vertical farms and everything like that. So I'm saying there comes a point, the biggest problem we've got right now is logistics. So it's the fact that housing is a massive issue. So that means that people can't afford housing, which is completely eating away into everything else. Now I'm saying if people could live on more remote parts of the planet and actually spread out. You look at Turkey's population, they've got a population of in excess of 100 million, mainly in Istanbul and just on the southern tip.
Oh yeah.
The rest is sparsely spread out because there's mountain ranges, the logistics of putting roads and stuff like that. I'm thinking we would need a way, either the Hyperloop or to figure out a form of like, I don't know.
Oh, you can't call it the Hyperloop. It's the Virgin Hyperloop now.
It's the Virgin Hyperloop. Anyway,
because Richard Branson invested a fuck ton of money into that. As for anyone who doesn't know, the Hyperloop is a concept that was invented by Tesla, where basically you would take a underground tunnel and make it into a vacuum, and then run a train
Magrail
underneath it on a lev. What's it called? Maglev. Maglev basically is where the train is levitated by two magnets, one in the train and the rail that has been magnetized. So basically there is a frictionless motion that's created for it, and basically because it's in the vacuum, it means that there's no air resistance, so you can travel at like 700 miles per hour.
Well, they say that you can go up to, and like this is theoretical, 2,000 miles an hour.
That would probably kill the person inside.
No, because the thing is, you don't get hurt by the speed at which you're going. You get hurt by the acceleration.
Yeah.
So the thing is, when you
accelerating and decelerating.
Now imagine that. Like picture that thought, right?
Oh, Josh, yeah.
Yeah, if you're going at 2,000 miles an hour, would you not feel like the G-force or anything?
No, it's only when you accelerate.
So if you accelerated slowly,
if you went from 0 to 2,000, you'd become a dust.
You'd be mess.
Yeah.
You'd be painted onto the back of the fucking
you're on
train.
a plane, you're going 700 miles an hour. You don't feel it because you're already.
Well,
it's only when you take off you're like.
Commercial planes only go about 500 and something. They can't go 700. It's only fighter jets. It's only fighter jets that can go 700 plus. And the interesting bit is, I worked it out. You know how long it would take to get from York to London with a Hyperloop going 700 mile an hour? 18 minutes, 48 seconds. Right now, it takes about 2 hours. That's the fastest. Just under 2 hours.
700 miles an hour. Are you right? Are you sure about that?
Yeah.
What's the distance between London and York? I don't know.
It's not 700 miles, but it's...
No, it's more than that. It's about 8,000 kilometres between London and York.
8,000 kilometres?
London and... Sorry, not London and York. London and New York.
I said London and York.
Oh, no, it would take like 50 minutes. It's crazy.
It takes 18 minutes, 48 seconds.
Now imagine that. Imagine if you're living like on a little gorgeous island in the Northern Isles, and you're like, I'm going to nip to London now.
Yeah.
I'll be back in an hour.
But but to go back to our original thing, mate, the bit that's been able to let us do
200 miles,
that,
by the way.
200 miles to go to London. The bit that's let us do that is the capitalist system, because it continuously has to innovate.
I never had an argument against that. I'm saying that as it stands at the moment, the best system that we have, and the system that is creating, for example, where was China 20 years ago? Nowhere near where it's now.
Man, they didn't even have a car industry 20 years ago.
Exactly. So what happened with capitalism is they said, right, there's a saturated market here over in the US. There's low workers and everything, and a lot of opportunity here. We are going to take our investment, our money, which is the world's interest from previous podcasts. We're going to put it in China. China is now the largest 20 trillion GDP. Now they're going to India.
Can I give you a statistic?
Africa, and then the entire world is going to basically have.
Can I give you a good statistic? This 2017's GDP growth. Would you like to know how much percentage China accounted for?
In the entire planet?
The entire planet.
2%.
35%.
No.
They are the top GDP producing country 2017. US is second place.
This is my argument in that regard. It's like, would we be that annoyed if 100,000 Swedish people came over and emigrated to the UK?
Some people would. Some people would.
Well, not many. Come on.
Some people.
We've got similar education. We've got similar in terms of...
I'd argue the Scandinavian education system is better.
Yeah, they're superior to us. The thing is when someone comes from a...
Well, to be honest, some people would complain at one Swedish person coming over.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
This is the thing, like, to go back further...
I'm saying relatively, people would be less pissed is that if people came from an economy that's a lot more downtrodden and there's different cultures and there's a lot of clash there.
To go back to original argument, it's this sort of team mentality. Team mentality. That's all it's about. It's always been about tribes. The tribe mentality is a better way of putting it.
The tribe were evolved to live within groups of 150 people.
Dunbar's number is about 200 and something, I think. So it's low 200s is Dunbar's number,
which is... Had the logistics,
Dunbar's number is basically how many people in your brain that you can have an individual relationship with.
Yeah.
So about 200-ish, depending on the person.
So technology is giving us that ability now. So if we had logistics like that,
we've got way more relationships. Got way more relationships than 200, and it's starting to really fuck with us. And basically, what's happening is you can't have a vested interest in other people, and then you have something called social dissolution, where basically you don't have the same sort. You don't feel as socially obligated as you used to when you only integrated with a smaller amount. So this allows the spread of non-socially beneficial behaviors. So, for example, not being able to that allows people to not have personal relationships, not have friendships, not have sexual relationships. This allows the diverse spread of new concepts, new ideas that we've never really thought of. Like, for example, new gender groups, new political groups, new religious groups, new everything is all coming out because we're having a massive influx of people that all have to interact and integrate with each other, but not in a very personable manner.
No, you could say that.
So
but
they
also
can just
you could
spread.
argue the fact that, as far as how many close friends I've got, I'd say
I can count
probably,
one or two hands.
Exactly. Like,
but how many people do I interact with on a daily basis?
Those are close interpersonal relationships. You don't know about what they did that week. You don't know about, like there's a lot of things where I think very, very few people actually have close interpersonal relationships with 250 people.
This is why I wanted to.
At the same time.
I wanted it. I'd like it. It would be kind of cool. Imagine if you just called up your friend and like, hey man, how's it going? Just called your friends. How's it going? How you doing?
90% of them
most
will answer
people,
because no one goes from
people
calls.
fucking think that's so weird. But when you really think about it, what do I do when we talk to each other? You go, oh hey Mickey, how's it going? You say that to when you're in physical interaction, but when you use a disconnect like a phone, it's almost weird. It's almost
transformed now because that used to be the only way, but now you just text someone.
On social media, I like to go, hey, how are you doing? Or hi, how are you doing? Hi, Josh, how are you doing? Like I've said that to you in a message, haven't I? I start with that because I'm like, well, let's see how he's doing. He might be doing good. He might be doing bad. But then I might
gauge the situation.
But something in my head is like, oh, I want to talk to Josh about this, but I'll check with him first how he's fucking doing. But then some people don't even bother doing that. They're like, Josh, can you show me this video? And you'd be like, well, thanks, mate.
I was kind of doing something
really in depth fucking conversation. Thanks, mate.
I'll be honest, I kind of am guilty of doing that.
Mate, you need to just say how. All you got to do is just put, how are you? Hey, how are you?
There's this Iranian professor.
And then get to that.
Well, at least if I'm at work, I'm guilty of doing that.
You got to.
Because I need something from people.
But then the best way of but this is going back to my Andy McNabb thing. That book. How to basically manipulate people to be the best version that they can be, which therefore they're going to perform best for you, is to be personable with them. To be invested in that. If you're invested in that person, if you were invested in the person you need them to do, they're going to do a better job getting it.
Yep.
So if Mickey, if I wanted you to build me a house, I wouldn't go build me a house and give you some money. You'd be like, I'd be like, hey man, how's it going? I know you do construction. I was wondering if you could build me a house. Is that right? And then I'd have a conversation with you, and we'd have an in-depth backwards and forwards about something that you're passionate about. Yeah, I'm thinking about having I've got 2 kids. So I'm thinking about having 2 bedrooms. 3 bedrooms. the objective is for you to build me my house.
Yeah.
But then you go, oh, this guy's got 2 kids. I've got 2 kids. Oh, okay, cool. Oh, this guy likes coffee. He wants a special kitchen.
Commonality, yeah. And then you make it more personal to the person you're building it for, because otherwise you're like, right, generic house.
Mm-hmm.
But instead, if I get to know you, I'm like, oh, Simon said he's into his coffee machine, his espresso. He likes a big kitchen.
He's got a car. He's got 2 cars.
I'm gonna call him up. I'm gonna like, oh, listen, like I can do here. I can make this kitchen bigger for you, bit more space. Okay, maybe it's gonna be £2,000 extra, but check out how it will look.
Yeah, exactly. And then I might be like, oh, I'll pay the extra £2,000, but that extra £2,000 for you, for your business, can help you buy new stuff or hire a new employee, do lots of
and
stuff.
you'll enjoy your house more because you'll like it the way you wanted it.
And to go back to the original argument here, Mickey, is that wouldn't be possible if it wasn't for respecting someone's individuality. Because that means I can have an individual house that is non-standard, that is not controlled by the state, and you have the benefit of creating your own company.
No variety otherwise.
Exactly. And without variety, there will be no life. And let's end on that brilliant quote. That was the first proper debate, I'd say, in our 22 episodes, 23 now, that we've had there. I think, Josh, we should now... Should we do some funny news stuff?
Let's do some funny news.
Let's do some funny news articles, okay?
Yeah.
Deep.
It was deep, to be honest. It was deep.
Quite deep.
But
Wink.
how... Hey. hey. How good do you feel after it, though? Feel quite good. I feel quite good. Feel quite pumped.
Speaking of wink.
Okay.
Trying to tag you guys on Instagram.
Oh, yeah?
The first suggested post was Bang Bros.
Oh.
Of course it was.
I'm like, why?
It's the universe giving you a sign that you need.
I've never been on that.
No, I don't know. Their acting's not as good as it could be.
Yeah. So, yeah, the whole kind of...
I don't know. Like, I actually am one of those guys. You know, people say you don't go in for the acting. I go in for the acting.
You're in it for the story, aren't you?
You know the bit that really turns me off? Really turns me off is when when a girl obviously says, that's a porn actress, and says something like, oh, that's making my pussy wet. I'm like... That's really turned me off now.
We know this.
Yeah, that's like I know how body mechanics work. Can't you
No,
just?
the thing is,
you need to represent that you're sexually
when they go into
aroused.
it, you can tell all they want to do is bone. Like if they came into it first,
it needs to be a bit more.
Yeah, it's kind of
love.
Like they're chatting and they're like, oh, and then like there's some weird innuendo.
I got a big package for you.
It should be like they're just chatting and then out of nowhere, holy shit. Like surprise the audience,
yeah,
and then just kind of like build the tension.
Or make it like you're filming a romantic night, and then the romantic night builds and builds and builds with the intimacy, and then someone's balls deep in someone's ass.
Yeah, take it like
a perfect end to a romantic day.
Exactly.
You know?
Just
pretty much, but you never know what's going to happen. You never know when the balls will be in the ass.
Yeah, and you never know when a girl's pinned you down with her fanny on your face like a face hugger from Alien, and you never know where that's going to go.
Exactly.
You never know what kind of mess you'd be making.
I think we've missed our calling here.
I think we have segued again. Josh, give us our first funny news article, please.
So this isn't really funny news.
Oh God, here we go.
But
go on.
So obviously I've told you that me and my friends went to Russia.
You went to Russia, yeah.
And we went to a market and bought some things. And
things. Did you buy dildos?
Things. I bought a hat.
You bought a hat, okay.
Mashanka. He's got one just like me now.
Okay, cool.
Me and my friend bought a hat. And my friends just sent me a picture of the bag that it came in.
Oh, no.
And there's names of like tech companies.
Oh, yeah?
But they're like fake tech companies.
Fake tech companies?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So there's like Siemens.
Instead
of Siemens.
Siemens, yeah.
Kodak.
Instead of Kodak.
Sony.
They must have made that one.
Sony.
Pioneer.
Ooh, what's Pioneer?
Pioneer.
I've never heard of Pioneer. I've never heard of Pioneer.
Pioneer is TV, isn't it? TV and film?
Audio.
Okay, cool.
Okay,
Keep going.
Yeah. Amazon. Bosch. The Bosch, yeah. And that's pretty much for
I like that little game there. I tried to guess.
Yeah, that's quite cute.
Philips.
Oh, Philips.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Is this made by a Chinese company?
Yeah, something tells me.
Because in China, they basically rip everything off. There's a rip-off Apple, there's a rip-off Starbucks, rip-off Rolex, rip-off everything. They literally copy other people's work. And then the people try to go and get a copyright infringement against them, and then the Chinese courts go,
Nah, you're fine.
Fuck off.
Try invaders. Boom, mic drop.
It'd be India that invades China, probably.
Well, they won't get far. They've got a big army. That would be a very messy
India's
fight.
population will be bigger than China's. That's the scary
Well, they're
bit.
saying India's economy by 2050 will be larger than America's. It'll be China, India, America by 2050.
I don't think America's going to be that around for very long.
Well, they're exhibiting all the signs of a collapsing empire. I was talking about this all yesterday.
Right. First funny news, please.
So, first funny news article is crocodile and snakes found in Essex house by drugs raid police.
Go on. Keep going.
Crocodile and what? A snake.
Crocodile and snakes.
Keep going.
I don't know why I thought crocodile and chicken. I don't know why.
Let's read that. Read that out.
So, the police say that dangerous wild animals were among snakes, including a cobra and a
my God.
Madagascan hognose snake.
A Madagascan hog-nosed.
All I can think is a
snake.
pig / a snake.
A little.
with
All I'm thinking about is a little pig with a snake tail. That's all I'm thinking now.
So they found a 4-foot crocodile when they carried out a drugs raid.
Fucking hell, that is. Was it full of drugs?
4 foot. You can handle a 4 foot
Imagine
croc.
you could get that through customs, surely. You just
Imagine
carry the
stuffing
crocodile.
that
Steve
crocodile.
Irwin would have been like, "Oh, it's only a little baby."
Do you remember
What a beauty.
Steve Irwin said that he was doing a thing where he's going to feed crocodiles. He was going to get in. He said the only way I could survive if a crocodile bites me is to punch my hand down its throat because it has a valve in its throat to stop water getting in when they come out the water.
Yeah.
And he said if I do that, hopefully it'll just choke and then it'll let me go. But if it doesn't, I'm dead.
3,000 pounds per square inch. Your arm is gone. And they did a death roll. There's a video on YouTube. Don't watch it.
There's a video on YouTube.
There's a video
Don't
on
watch
YouTube
it. I like that.
of a crocodile with a death roll because he does that thing where he puts his hand in his mouth and I'm like, you're an idiot, and it bites down and it just starts spinning.
It'll rip it clean. That's how it works.
Yeah, I'm definitely linking that in the
Do it.
description below.
No, because we're gonna.
Please put parental guidance or something like that because that's dark.
I'm not doing it.
I've seen what crocodiles are fucking mean. I've also seen. Here's an interesting
You've been around
one.
for
I saw
a long
a
time.
jaguar kill a crocodile.
I saw that too. It just
and
jumped in the
ate
river.
it, and he just fuck. This is why I say cats are nature's murderers. That's all they do. They just fucking murder shit. Anyway, next one.
We managed to tame them though. No.
Some.
So, syphilitic mummy found under Swiss church is Boris Johnson's relative.
Yes, I heard about this one. Yeah. Keep going with this.
Anna Bischoff was the great grandmother of a foreign secretary.
Fucking hell.
So
Bloodlines.
he's connected to a mummy, as in a mummified.
Yeah. So she's not actually been mummified. It's just that her remains were so full of mercury, wasn't it, that all of her skin is preserved. So she looks pretty good for her body. She isn't just a skeleton.
Looks pretty good for her age.
Yeah. But yeah.
If you're into necrophilia and that sort of stuff.
Oh, if I'm into good-looking bodies, which I am.
She died in 1787.
1787. Fucking hell. That's insane. Man, and it's weird that Boris Johnson is related, but here's an interesting fact I've said before. You know, we're all related. Every single human on the planet is related to Emperor Charlemagne.
Yeah, 814.
Every single human being is related to Emperor Charlemagne. It doesn't matter even if you technically weren't related. Like, as in, like, you're born in fucking, I don't know, Kenya. You are related in some way to him. There's some connection. It freaks me the fuck out. Next one.
Camels banned from beauty contest after being injected with Botox.
Camel.
Yes, camels. Yeah. Camels in Saudi Arabia.
So competitors are judged on the size of their lips, cheeks, heads and knees.
Knees?
Well,
not humps.
Nope, knees.
For camels? But the most distinctive thing
check
of
out
camels,
those knees on that camel.
I wouldn't go, ooh, that's some nice knees on that camel there. I'd go, look at those humps on it.
Oh. Well, that's another
Saudi
fetish I
Arabia
know
is a
now
strange
exists.
place.
Saudi Arabia is a strange place.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah.
Some of their laws.
I mean, they have beauty contests for camels. What more do you need to know?
It's very true. It's very true. It must be very lonely in the desert. That's all I'm saying. And have you got anything?
Two humps, they look like boobs.
I'm just going to stick my dick between
just
them.
a mirage. You're not just searching for water out in the desert. Let's put it that way.
I like how when I was a kid, I thought that camels literally in their humps had vile, like, bits of, like, a tank of water. Not like a organ tank, I meant. But I didn't realise all it is just fat. They're just lumps of fat that are broken down when it needs to be water. Didn't know that.
Of course, it wouldn't just have normal water.
Yeah, I was like, what the fuck?
You'd be able to tip a camel over so easily, but it's like shaking.
You'd be
like
sloshing
water.
around, yeah. It'd be like a big water tank.
So, for these camels, they pay up to about 1.3 million
Dollars.
pounds.
Oh, 1.3 million
This is what happens when
pounds.
people have a lot of money. They'll give you 1.3 million.
I mean, that's not unusual in horses.
No.
Like horse racing,
No.
stallions and stuff.
That's
like that.
fair.
That's fair enough. So camels, eh?
Was it the world's most expensive horse? Got sold for like in excess of 100 million.
That's a lot of money.
130,
A lot of money.
but I could be wrong.
That'd be a nice payday.
Yeah, it would be. And we need to get into camel surgery, evidently.
Imagine insurance for that horse. I'm not insuring you. No way.
Oh, so basically, if you want it insured, you can get it insured.
But it would cost you a fortune. Because one trip and that's it. That 100 million, 30 million pound price horse is down.
So here's an anecdote I know of. There's in Lloyd's of London, which is a world-renowned insurance market in London, a massive building. There is I can't remember the name of it, but basically where you can have an insurance policy if you have more than one child. I think it was a Minnesotan family, took out the policy. They then had a £20 million payout for them having 2 kids instead of 1. They then...
How?
Because the insurance so Lloyd's basically said they agreed like a premium to pay if you only have like for the policy, and it basically is it's like what's the
It's
word?
like a gamble, isn't it? So
Yeah,
if you had
that's
one
what
kid,
insurance
you had
is.
to pay them.
Yeah, basically. So they got a £20 million payout for that,
But
and then
obviously-
they took it out again, and then they had twins, two sets of twins.
Oh,
Let's just say they're never having that insurance policy ever again.
The thing is, though, you can't actually create twins because you can split an embryo.
Yeah, but you'd fuck it up.
gotta be careful
You'd fuck it
there.
up. You'd fuck
No,
it
you
up.
wouldn't.
though. I think you'd fuck it up.
No, you've got one egg that basically gets split into 2, and then the genetic material gets.
I
split
wouldn't
into
want.
2.
I don't like fucking around with that kind of stuff.
This
Yeah,
is
no.
Jurassic Park in the making.
Dun dun dun
Oh,
dun.
we've already
Exactly.
got CRISPR and stuff like that. Like,
Yeah, we do have genetic editing software now.
No, we're getting to the point. Like the thing is,
38.
it is literally.
Oh, this is it.
That's
38.
Pandora's box. of the
38
genes of that we know.
Chinese people have already had CRISPR. So people who are alive have had genetic
Yeah,
alterations done to them.
Literally, it's Pandora's box. Like
Yeah.
if we figure out genetics, like I think there's something that we're gonna
Zombies.
Gonna go,
It's gonna be zombies.
We're going to go that deep into what we are, where we came
As
from.
I've said before, zombies.
I kind
gonna
of
be interesting
reignited that
to
whole
find
zombie
out.
debate last night, didn't I?
He literally said cruise ships, and
Oh,
that's it. We were talking
fucking
for
hell,
like
with the
half
cruise
an hour.
ships. For people who are only listening to us now, we had an extensive argument basically around it. Well, that was probably our first debate when I think about it. The best way to survive a zombie apocalypse. Muggins McGee
I'm not
over
nugging-
here
I'm not nugging.
flipping wants to bloody go on a cruise ship. The rest of us are like, we'll stay on land. You
Where
know.
all the rest of the zombies are. all the rest of the people that are trying to
Anyway,
fight.
Josh, is there any other funny news?
Yeah.
So a concerned woman calls 999 for help because her cat looks sick. One caller phone
At
999.
least call 112. Like,
Call someone else than 999. Go on, keep going with
It's
it.
a non-emergency, if I'm honest, because one had dry mouth and another complained of irritated eyes from false eyelashes. Wait, what?
On her cat?
On her cat? What?
No.
this is why the
no,
NHS
no,
is
no,
so
no.
struggling under the coping of my cat still.
So stupid.
Jeez Louise.
God. Yep. False eyelashes on the cat, apparently.
I wonder
No, they put false eyelashes on a cat. Why wouldn't you take it to a fucking vet?
Poor fucking cat.
I feel sorry for this poor little cat.
Jesus.
So is it the same woman or man?
No, different.
Oh, so
cases.
different. God.
Yeah.
Right, okay, so at least it's not the same person putting on fucking fake eyelashes and saying the cat has dry mouth.
What's
Just give
the
it some
first
fucking
thing? The
water.
cat had dry mouth.
Yeah.
Did he get the cat stoned? Or she?
You hotbox a cat.
That's all I thought. He was there like in his room. He's like, oh, my cat looks a bit.
My cat looks fucked.
that
And the
cat's
cat's just like, oh.
Wait, isn't
You could
that-
do that with a dog, by the way.
No. There was definitely a joint involved because if someone has dry mouth, you drink water. You don't call the police saying my cat's got dry mouth.
My friend, one of my friends in Scarborough, used to have, had 2 dogs, but he was quite partial to the marijuana. And basically, him and his friends were smoking in his house one day, and one of their dogs is quite a dopey dog anyway, and basically it tried to jump up to give him a hug, missed him completely, and went clean into the wall behind the sofa. They had a gap between the sofa and the wall, and fell down to the back of the sofa, and was just like, they took a photo of it, and it was just like,
Well, the dog was.
the dog was just, He was like whimpering, like they were like they were super worried about it. So what they did was they stopped obviously smoking the weed, and then they took the dog out, tried to walk it, and the dog was literally, you've seen the videos where the dogs are like being dragged along by their collar. It was lying on its side, like no, I don't want to.
I just want to eat food, watch Netflix.
I just want to stay inside. The other dog though apparently was totally fine and wasn't even high.
Oh,
yeah.
I love it when animals act like humans.
Well, yeah.
I've got a story which is my friend really is this is ages ago in college. Just a quick one. He basically really rapidly threw down the garage door.
Really rapidly threw the garage door down.
Yeah.
Yes.
I only realised after that his cat.
Oh no!
He didn't kill it.
What?
He didn't kill it. He just.
Look how he's laughing at it.
We're all laughing. We're all laughing.
He didn't kill it, but did he take one of its 9 lives away?
No, he made it mentally disabled.
Oh! So for anyone who didn't hear that, he made it mentally disabled. Oh my god.
Shame.
You're dark as fuck, mate. That is... shouldn't be laughing at that.
Moving on.
Moving on, please. I like how you snotted out your nose as well.
Cut that.
No.
That's definitely going
Let's
in.
stay in the fucking...
Oh,
zoom
yes.
the fuck in on that. On the edit, zoom in on that.
No, basically it was just like it couldn't meow properly.
Oh no. It couldn't meow.
I love cats. So this is why I'm started crying, but at the same time laughing because it's horrible. And yeah, I don't know why I said that. Anyway, he's a terrible person.
He is a terrible person. Right, is this the last one?
Yeah, this is the last
Oh,
one.
okay, good.
So... are you ready to go home, Simon?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay.
All right, come on.
Sorry we've kept you.
Yes.
So, mass brawl breaks out at all-you-can-eat Harvester breakfast buffet over toaster row.
Right, okay.
So there was a guy that was trying to push into the queue.
What a monster.
Yeah.
He's British.
Yeah.
Right, you don't push into queues.
Yeah. We love queuing as well.
Queuing's a thing.
Did you
Queuing
know-
is our
Oh,
thing.
yeah.
It's only our thing as well. No other country queues. Even in America, they don't fucking queue.
Do you see that picture where there was like they'd taken all the guardrails out and it says Britain the only place where they actually still queue and everyone's still queuing. There wasn't like anything. They were just like, and then the people still arrange
The zigzag. They do the zigzag thing. Yeah, I've seen people do the zigzag thing a lot.
I'll be honest, I hate queuing.
I like that everyone wants to do the right thing and kind of do it. One thing I will say you should never queue at is a pub. You know, when you go to the bar, everyone should be up against there. And then what you do is, I would say the only way is I'd make it so that it's a multi-queue system. And all you do is you just go left to right and then you go back like that as a barman. So it's a more organised system. There needs to be more organisation. Because we were at a bar last night, I won't say where, but the service was not good. You know where? It was the first place we went to.
I know.
Yeah? We're not going to say the place, but of the bar people knowing who was next, people were just jumping in, and
Yeah.
I was getting a bit frustrated, but I was calm, collected, and patiently waited. Eventually got my drink. The person then poured it with so much head on the beer that when I went, oh, can I have a top up on that? And he just looked at me in the eyes and was like, yeah, all right. I was like, you've got 2-3 inches of head, which for people who don't drink beer, head is basically the white foam on top of beer that you see. And there was so much of it. I was like, come on, man, you got to pour you got to pour it correctly. And he handed it back over to me. Went, there you go. I was like, this guy.
Service with a smile, eh?
That's Britain. Customer service does not exist, but I like it. It's funny.
Yeah.
He's given me a good anecdote to tell.
What's packed in there?
Was packed. It was busy, but it's nice. I do like the place though, and they do serve good stuff. But
let's not mention them because we do want sponsors. So
hashtag sponsor us.
hashtag sponsorship.
They're a big company, aren't
They will be.
Yeah.
They could be in the future.
Growing, yeah.
They're growing.
Expanding.
Aspirational. There we go. Is there anything else, Josh?
Nope.
Nope, cool. So this has been episode 23 of the Gentleman's Debate podcast. I'm not sure what we're going to call it yet, but this is the newest one of 2018. This is the first podcast of 2018.
Debate mind blow.
Debate Mind Blow might be a good title for this, actually.
We finally debate.
Jordan,
we finally fucking debate. No,
JP and Cathy Newman breakdown.
Because we didn't go into that much detail about the interview.
Well, the thing is, it's like an it thing right now, so it's clickbait.
Yeah, but
we're not clickbait.
We're not going to do clickbait. Are we honest?
We try to be honest.
This is something we should do when the cameras stop recording.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Anyway, this has been the Gentleman's Debate podcast. Say goodbye, Mickey.
Goodbye.
Say goodbye, Josh.
Bye, guys.
And that's it. Peace out, motherfuckers. Goodbye.
Bye.
Like, there's a lot of...